fine with me.
Doesn't matter.
All right, we've already done our roll call and thank you, Ms. Troop, for doing that. And we will begin our meeting. Are we good, Mrs. Conway?
Why not?
Yes, please go right ahead.
Okay, so welcome to our work session of February 7th. Just some business on the side that those of you who are following our election results, the recount is to take place tomorrow, or it starts.
Sorry, guys, sorry.
Starts tomorrow. We may not have our results immediately, but we will be watching that. We have our Start Strong presentation today by Assistant Superintendent Ms. Kelly Weldon. I'm going to ask board members that we keep our questions limited to 15 minutes. If you have further questions.
Each or 15 minutes
Not
each?
each, 15 minutes in total.
Okay.
And if you have further questions that you email Ms. Weldon and that she will be able to answer, because the presentation is about 90 plus slides, Ms. Weldon. So if you have questions, we would do that. Also this evening, we begin our budgetary presentation with Ms. Truba. And it's very important that our community take part on these meetings for our budget, and that your input is extremely important. That's why we have our public comment sessions. I'd also like to give a shout out to the students who participated in the January 27th Shark Tank event at Wayside School. That was just so much, it was incredible. And the winners of their Get Up, Stay Up, a facial expression form of an alarm clock that we all probably could use, was so creative.
I want to buy the patent.
We congratulate Leo Renoise, Teresa House, and Nikki Rivenberg. So we'll get started now with the rest of our meeting with the superintendent's report. Just a thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Gilman.
Welcome.
For my report this evening, I'm going to hand it over to Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, Ms. Kelly Weldon, to discuss the Start Strong results. As a reminder, the Start Strong assessment was given to students upon return from the summer break by the end of September. If I'm not mistaken, they took it, right? And so we in the district have had these results from just about that time, but it takes a while for for the teacher use, but it takes a little bit of time for us to get these to where they're available to be shared with the public. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Weldon, and then in about 3 hours, we'll have some questions for you. So.
I will do my best. Thank you very much. That is correct. I am here to present the Start Strong results that our students took this September. All the schools completed the test in September over a 2-day period for each school. Mrs. Conway, can you? Perfect. Thank you. And you can advance. The Start Strong was given, it was a mandate from the Department of Education to give this at the start of each school year. We did this last year as well, and it's really meant to determine how many skills and standards the students held on to this year from last year when they returned from the summer. So it is an assessment of the prior year's standards, and not all of them, but a subset of priority standards. The students the test was administered over a 45 to 60 minute window of time in both ELA math and in some grade level science. If you could please advance. Okay, the Start Strong assessments are not supposed to replace our local benchmark. So we did continue to give Linkit benchmark assessments this year, as well as our DIBELS assessments for early literacy. And they are not supposed to replace the NJSLA, which students will take later this spring. And our high school students already did take once this year for fall block classes. So we continue with all of that testing. Start Strong is simply an opening year benchmark to see how much students remembered from the previous year and what skills and strategies we may need to focus on this school year to help close that learning loss gap that may have been created from the school closures over the last few years. And that is exactly what we did do with those results. And we had them immediately. Teachers were able to access the results of their classes as soon as the students finished the test. So that was back in September, and they used that and they coupled that information with what I said before, our local benchmarks, link it, and also NJSLA results from the year before, Y1 report card data, and other factors like that to help drive instruction in the classroom. Okay, if you could please advance. Just an important note that the state likes us to clarify that this is not intended to be compared to NJSLA results, because the NJSLA is a much more in-depth test. This is a quick overview of some priority standards to see how students retain that information from the previous year. Okay, please advance. All right, we're going to take a look at grade level and content alignment. Please advance. So this chart shows you if what course the student is in this year, and then what was the content of the assessment. So if the student is currently a fourth grader, their assessment was on the grade 3 content. And you see that pattern all the way through. If a student is currently in grade 10, they took a Start Strong assessment on grade 9 content. Okay, this is for English language arts. Please advance. This is here is for math, similar concept, grade 4, took grade 3 content assessment. If you go down to the high school level courses or upper level mathematics courses, Algebra 1 and geometry students took a test that assessed them on grade 8 standards. Algebra 1 focused more on algebraic concepts of grade 8, and geometry focused more on the standards relevant to geometric concepts. Algebra 2 students took an assessment based on Algebra 1 content. Okay, so it just shows you what they were tested on. These previous charts, and the science here shows you that students in grade 6 took a science assessment based on grade 3 to 5 standards. Grade 9 took middle school science standards, and grade 12 took high school science standards. That was the content of the assessment. Okay, if you could please advance. The Start Strong is scored in 3 support levels, 3 performance levels. Level 1 being strong support may be needed. Level 2, some support may be needed. And level 3 is the highest scoring performance level, which means less support may be needed. Okay, please advance. So when we look at our data and all 95 of these slides and all this information, we take away that our ELA performance was strong. We saw that more of the grade level scored less support needed range over the other 2 performance bands, which was good. But for math and science, we are concerned that more of the students scored in the strong support needed performance band rather than the less support needed band. Okay, overall, science is a main focus in all grades and subgroups. Algebra 1 at the high school continues to be an area of concern, and ELL and special education subgroups need special attention, based on these results. Some areas that we were very pleased to see was our grade 4 ELA performance at Ocean Township Elementary School and Wanamassa School. Grade 4 for math at Wanamassa and Wayside was also strong, and grade 5 ELA and math, and grade 9 ELA, some areas to celebrate. If you could please advance. Okay, we'll get down into the results now. Please advance. All right, this slide will show you the grade level, the number of students tested in that grade level, and then each support band, you see 2 columns for each support band. First, the count of students who scored at that level and what that percent represents, what that number represents in percent. And then if you move over across towards the right, you'll see some support may be needed band, the count and the percent, and then less support needed, the count and the percent. Again, strong support being the lowest level performance band, less support may be needed, the highest performance band. And you see that for English language arts, all grade levels, percents, and the counts. Okay, please advance. Now, that same information in chart form for percentages. This is showing you percentages. So if you look across, we have performance in grade 5 that we note you know, if you're looking here, the red is the lowest performance band, blue is the middle, some support may be needed, and green, less support is needed. So what we want to see is more green than red, right? That would be the trend we're looking for. So if you quickly look across, we have equal to or higher green in almost every grade level. Okay, please advance. This is the same information for mathematics. The count and the percentage for each grade level and course, mathematic course taken. And if you advance to the next slide, you'll see that information in chart form. Again, these are the percentages only, not the counts. And again, grade 4, strong performance by grade 4 and 5. But as we go up through the grades, there are obviously some concern there where the red is above the green, in some cases far above the green. So those are the areas where we want to hone in on and, you know, dissect what learning loss may have happened and what skills students may need, and really target instruction with that information. Please advance. Okay, and the same information for science. And again, I think the chart is a better view if you could advance. And here, as I noted earlier, in science, the red is stronger in all areas, area of concern for us as well, and making some changes there to try and address that as we move through the year and prepare for NJSLA this spring. Okay, please advance. Let's look at the elementary schools specifically. That same information we saw before, but now this is focused on grade 4, all 3 schools and the district combined, English language arts. And if you would advance, please. On this chart, you have that same information plus state performance. And if you can see here for OTES, that's 38% in the green, just slightly below the 40% at the state. Wanamassa 47%. Above the state, Wayside 36 below. And overall, the district 39%, just slightly below the state. But at OTES, stronger in the less support band than the other 2 areas, which we are pleased to see. Okay, if you could please advance. All right, this is cohort data. We did not have this last year. Obviously, that last year was the first time we took Start Strong, but now that we have 2 years of Start Strong data, we're looking here at the same students. These students were in grade 4 in the fall of 2021 on the left. That was their performance on the grade 4 assessment, which was actually grading grade 3 content. So at the start of grade 4, this is how they performed. At the start of grade 5 this year, this is how that same group of students performed. The green area has grown. That's an area of strength there. As I said, the 4 to 5 results we were pleased to see the growth there. Okay, if you could please advance. Now, these were 5th graders last fall in 2021, same students. They were sixth graders right now. So this fall as 6th graders, different motion here. We had less students scoring in the less support needed, which is that green band, right? So same group of students, a little bit of decline from last September to this September on different standards, but this is the same group of students. Okay, please advance. Same information now for math. Again, we're looking at grade 4. We're looking at the 3 elementary schools and the district average. If you advance to the chart, please. I've added on the chart, the state information is added here. Okay, again, we're looking for that green band to be stronger than the blue or the red, which is the case at Wanamassa, Wayside, with a district average of 48, which above the state average. Still working at OTS there on that 4th grade math, which is an assessment of the 3rd grade skills. So using that information to drive instruction this year to help those 4th graders close any learning gaps that they may have. Okay, please advance. Again, cohort information, last year's 4th grade performance at the beginning of September. compared to this September when they entered 5th grade. This was their performance. Slight drop in the green band, slight increase in the blue. Overall, similar performance, not much difference, but a little drop off. Same students, different content. Same students, different content from the left to the right. Okay, please advance. Oops, sorry. Okay, next grade level is grade 5. Last September to grade 6 this September. Again, same students, different content. Did not score as strong this fall in the less support needed band and grew a little bit in the strong support needed band. Same students, different content. Okay, please advance. Okay, focusing in on the intermediate school. Here is grade 5 compared with the state. We have our grade 5 ELA results. And you see here, focusing in on the green for now, slightly above the state, the other two areas somewhat comparable, but the green area just above the state. Please advance. Grade 6 ELA, Ocean just scoring just below the state in the green bands. You can advance. Same thing here with grade 7 ELA, 44% less support needed compared with the state at 45%. Please advance. And grade 8, 40% of Ocean students scoring less support needed compared with the state at 47% less support needed. Okay, you can please advance. And here for intermediate school cohort data, we have last year 6th grade. They were 6th graders last September. Their performance on the left compared to those same students this September as 7th graders. Similar performance in the less support needed band, but some movement in the instead of the blue group, which is the some support needed, did shrink a little bit this year. And those, it seems like those students did drop off into the more support needed. So there was some downward movement there between level 2 and level 3. Level 3 being the green, sort of holding steady. If you could please, go ahead.
Just a question. So that grade 8. Wait, was that what I was looking
Oh,
at?
we're holding
No,
questions till the
I'm
end.
sorry. So the grade 7 was tested on grade 6 material and grade 6 was tested on grade 5. Just, do the curriculums differ that much from 6 to 7 in ELA? Just wondering.
The standards, that standards band is the same standards band. Yeah, similar. I mean, they're growing on those standards. They're learning them. They're being introduced to them for the first time.
In 7.
Yeah, in 6 and 6.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, please advance. And the same cohort information for last year's grade 7 in September of last year to this year's grade 8. This September, same students, different content. Again, the green band did get smaller. In the other areas, the blue, smaller, the red, larger. That's not the movement we would like to see. But again, it's same students, different content. So you have to take that into account. But those are the same students, different content, our current 8th graders. Okay, please advance. Grade 5. Okay, now we're on to mathematics at TOIS, grade 5. Ocean Township, 44% scoring the less support needed band compared with the state at 32%. Please advance. Grade 6, 31%, slightly above the state, which is scoring at 28% in the less support performance band. Please advance. Grade 7, 27% in the less support needed band as compared with the state at the same percentage. Even with the state, thank you. And grade 8 also even with the state here at 20% scoring less support needed. Obviously, we'd like to see more green here, but equal with the state performance across the board. Okay, please advance. Here's the cohort data for those students who were sixth graders last year and are currently seventh graders. Again, a little bit of a stronger performance last September compared with this September. Different students. Sorry, same students, different content. Okay, please advance. And grade 7 to grade 8. This year's current grade 8 students last year in grade 7 scoring stronger in that less support may be needed band than compared to this year. Again, same students. It's hard to draw too many conclusions with this information with only 2 years of data. We would be looking for more information to go on. I'm not sure how different the test construction should be similar from year to year. But we would have liked to see stronger performance here from cohort year to year. Next slide, please. Okay, grade 6 science coming in at 19% below the state, which scored 25% in that highest band. Please advance. Okay, that was intermediate school. Let's move on to the high school grade levels. Okay, back to English. We're looking at English for grade 9. 53% of Ocean Township students scoring compared to 51% of the state in that top score performance band. Grade 10, 41% of our students scoring compared to 49% of the state in the less support band. Please advance. Cohort data, last year's 8th graders moving to 9th grade this year. Performance is very similar from last year to this year, same students, almost exact. Okay, please advance. And last year's 9th grade moving to grade 10, slightly less in the top performance band, but not too far off from last year's performance. Okay, please advance. Mathematics. Now we're looking at Algebra 1. Algebra 1 is taught both at our intermediate school and our high school. So you see here the intermediate school performance, 36% of students scoring above in that less support needed and above the state. Ocean Township High School, only 8% of students scoring in that top band. District average for 16%, which is just below the state at 19%. In the less support needed band. Okay, please advance. For geometry, Ocean Township High School students scoring 25% in that less support band compared with the state at 29%. Okay, please advance. Algebra 2, 31% compared with the state at 35%. Please advance. Now we're looking at science in grade 9. Again, Ocean Township High School at 12% compared with the state at 15%. Please advance. And grade 12, 18% at Ocean Township High School compared with the state at 25%. So, okay, subgroup performance. This is district data here. You have the total number of students in the blue column and then the percentages of students scoring at each performance band. Okay, so you have that information here on this chart, on this table, but it's a little bit easier to see on the charts that follow. So if you could please advance. Okay, so now you're looking at a number of subgroups across the bottom. Each additional slide will show all of the subgroups in English language arts. So we're starting here with Hispanic, Asian, Black or African American, white, and 2 or more races. You see that Hispanic is 34%, Asian at 53%. I'm focusing in on the green, the top level performance, 29% for Black and African American. White performance is 49%, 2 or more races, 42%. Please advance. We have IEP yes, 15%, 504, 51, current ELLs, 12%, former ELLs, 26%, and economically disadvantaged at 28% in the green. If you advance, please. And the last 2 subgroups for English language arts are female and male. 47% to 41%. Please advance. Okay, so now we're going to look at this compared with the state. I have to say a small disclaimer. Ocean Township data is actual data. The state data is taken from the state presentation, which did not give actual numbers, but percentages. And then I needed to average the percentages that were given. So they are very close to, I think, what the state average would be if they were to average it, but they didn't do that. They broke it out in a way that they disaggregated it in a way that if I did that, we would not be able to present our data. We would have to suppress most of it because we have subgroups that would be less than 10. So you can't show it. So they did present it and they did give the percentage, and I used their percentages and I averaged them across grade levels. Okay. In some areas, the state does not report the subgroups themselves to the public in the same way that they report our subgroups to us. So when we get to those slides, I'll explain a little bit more about that. Okay, if you could just back up one more, sorry, Ms. Conway. Okay, so starting with you're Hispanic, perfect. So we're looking at the state, our performance subgroup compared to the state, same subgroup, okay? Our Hispanic students scoring 34% in that highest band compared with the state at 32%. Please advance. Asian, 53% in Ocean Township compared to 70% of the state. This is all grade levels, all test takers, all contents, all tests. Okay, please advance. Black or African American, 29% in Ocean Township, scoring in that green less support band compared with 33% at the state. Please advance. Okay. White students in Ocean Township scoring 49% in the less support needed compared with the state at 54%. Please advance. IEP, yes. Okay, this is where there are some discrepancies with the state reporting, and I just received some clarification late today from the county. But they report to us a subgroup called IEP, yes. The state reported it as students with disabilities. The numbers did not seem to match to me, so I investigated a little bit further, and I did receive some communication that the state reported their 504 and special ed numbers together combined, and that's what you're looking at here. But they reported to us that information separately. So what you see on the left is our actual IEP yes performance compared with what the state reported as students with disabilities. Nowhere in the report does it indicate what that is, but when I asked at the county what that means, I was told that they combined their 504 data and their special ed data and reported it as one category.
To make it look.
I'm not sure. I don't want to make any judgments as to why. I'm just simply reporting what I found out. And it's not in a written report anywhere, so I don't even want to trust that completely. But what I am showing you is what was reported to us as IEP yes, and what was on the state report that's publicly available that was noted as students with disabilities.
And some of our, I'll ask later.
Okay, so that's when I was putting this together, looking for the IEP section, the closest thing I could find was students with disabilities. That's what is here. If I get clear, concrete direction, I can revise these and update them so it tells an accurate picture. But at the time of putting this together to meet the deadline to present it to you in the time we're given to present it, that was what I had to go on. So as we look at this, just keep that in mind, okay? Please advance. Okay, current English language learners, Ocean Township, 12% scoring in the green, compared with the state, 6%. Please advance. Former English learners, 26% in Ocean, compared with 36% at the state level. Please advance. Economically disadvantaged, 28% of Ocean students scoring in a less support band, compared with the state at 30%. Okay, no thanks. Female, 47% in Ocean compared with 50% at the state level. Please advance. Male performance 41% and Ocean compared with 42% at the state. Okay, please advance. Same information now for math, same subgroup data for all grades, all tests combined. This is Ocean Township performance that you're looking at here on this chart. Please advance. And now again, this is all Ocean Township performance here, Hispanic, Asian, Black or African-American, white, and 2 or more races. You can see the green across, 21% for Hispanic, 50 for Asian, 9 for Black or African-American, 36% white, and 2 or more races scored 23% in that less support needed band. Please advance. IEP yes, 9%, 504, 28%, current ELLs, 11%, former ELLs scoring at 29%, and economically disadvantaged students scoring 15% in that less support needed band. Okay, please advance. Mathematics district-wide, this is female, male, 26% female, 33% male scoring in the less support needed band. Please advance. Okay, again, now we're going to compare with the state. For Hispanic, Ocean Township at 21% scoring the less support needed compared with the state scoring 15%. Please advance. Asian, 50% in Ocean Township compared with 62% statewide. Please advance. Good. Black or African-American, 9% in Ocean Township scoring less support needed compared with 13% at the state level. Please advance. Thank you. This is white performance, 36% of white students scoring in that less support band compared with the state at the same amount, 36%. Please advance. IEP yes, again, this is the slide where the comparative data may be slightly off, but our results are 9% students scoring the less support needed compared with the state students with disabilities at 13%. Please advance. Current English language learners in Ocean is scoring at 11% in that less support needed compared with the state at 4%. Please advance. Former English language learners, Ocean Township, 29% compared with the state at 24%. Economically disadvantaged in Ocean Township, 15% compared with 14%. Female, 26% compared with the state, 25%. And finally, males, 33% compared with 30% at the state level. Okay. This is the same information for science. This is our subgroup data. These are our students across all grades, all tests combined. Please advance. And here in the chart, you see science performance, Hispanic at 11%, Asian at 37%. No Black or African-American students scored in that less support band. For science, white students scored at 19% and 2 or more races scored at 15% less support needed. Please advance. IEP yes is 2% of our students scoring in the less support needed, 504, 10%. Current ELLs, no students scored in that green band. Former ELLs is at 8% and economically disadvantaged students, 5%. Please advance. Female students, 14% scoring less support needed in science compared with the males at 18%. Please advance. Now, this is subgroup data compared with the state. Ocean Township scoring at 11% compared with the state at 10%. Again, this is science data. Please advance. Asian students in Ocean Township, 37% compared with 48% at the state in science. Please advance. In Ocean Township, Black or African-American, 0% of students scoring in that less support band compared with 9% at the state. Across the state, I should say. White student performance, 19% in Ocean Township compared with 28% statewide. IEP yes, 2% in Ocean Township compared with the students with disabilities, 11% at the state level. Current English learners, 0% in Ocean compared with 1% at the state, across the state. Former English language learners, 8% in Ocean Township compared with 12% statewide. And economically disadvantaged, 5% in Ocean Township compared with 9% statewide. Female performance, 14% Ocean Township, 20% statewide. And male, 18% in Ocean Township, 24% statewide. Okay, so as we always do, and as I mentioned at the beginning, the teachers were able to access these results right away, the supervisors as well. We looked at these reports. These reports also give us actually test items and how the student answered each question. So we could look at which questions students got wrong. Those questions were aligned with standards. So we could look across the department to see if there was a commonality in certain standards at certain grade levels that students did not perform well in. Our supervisors have for the last few years and continue to do it here with these results to match the standards to resources to help target instruction on those specific standards. So that when teachers are breaking up into small group and are targeting instruction and individualizing what a student may get, they are providing the teachers with the resources to do that based on each student's results. So that continues, and that work continues when we get our Linkit Form A results and our Linkit Form B results. And in between, our supervisors are holding data cycle meetings at different levels, primarily at the elementary and periodically at the secondary level, to see how those interventions have worked, to see if after we provide those targeted instruction lessons, if it is making any difference, if it's working, does the student need more of that? Has the student closed that learning gap in that one skill and now needs to focus on the next skill? So that cycle of assessing, determining areas of focus, providing instruction to meet those needs and close those gaps, and then assess whether or not the intervention was effective, is a process that is well in place in our schools, particularly with results like this one or the others that I've mentioned. So that process is ongoing. This information is also used to paint a picture of a student and what other supports they may need. This may be used to help determine if a student should be invited to the Spartan Acceleration programs or Spartan Leading the Way programs, both beyond the school day, those that are happening right now, and perhaps the summer programs that we will be running this summer. Other selection criteria opportunities such as gifted and talented or enrichment programming, leveling in the spring. Some of this information will be used to paint a picture about a student and what is the appropriate intervention and service to provide for that student. I will say though that overall NJSLA data and our own Linkit benchmark data and our teachers' own local assessments are looked upon heavier than our Start Strong results. The Start Strong was a quick test, short, it was not in depth. It's helpful in driving instruction, but I would not make too many strong decisions about a student based only on Start Strong. Some of our other data we feel is should be looked at with more emphasis in some of those decisions. But it is one piece of the puzzle that we absolutely monitor and keep as part of the picture of a student's performance. Okay, please advance. I think the last slide is that parents can have access to the parent portal and a deeper dive of their students' results. Letters went home to parents almost 2 months ago with information on how to log on, how to access this, and to get deeper information about scores and access to the digital library, which our teachers use and our supervisors use, but it's available also to parents. And this will take you there once it's posted on the website. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Does anybody have questions for Ms. Weldon? Mr. McCarthy?
Thank you. You rock. I hope you know that. We're putting this all together. I tell it to you every time. I'm amazed. I think this is the record number of slides. And it's our fault that you had to put together a record number of slides. We're always asking for more. There's never enough information in the data age. The reduction in less support needed, specifically in the or not elementary school, I should say, from fourth grade, it looked through eighth grade. Do we have any idea what could have caused that? Could it have been something with the exams?
In math, you're saying
It kinda seemed like
from
it's-
one.
Yeah, the
to the
cohort,
other?
exactly. It's kind of seemed like there was a trend there. And that trend didn't carry over to the high school. You know, had it been through the entire high school, would make me not wonder, right? Would have been like, oh, okay, this is something that's weird that's happening, but because it happened in those grades, I'm just curious if we have any idea what the cause was of that, for that trend?
You know, I don't have an answer. I don't have a concrete answer for that. I do find it interesting because I think many people would make the argument that the block schedule at the high school would lead to more summer slide than it does necessarily, because sometimes a student takes a course in the fall and then is not assessed on it until this, the following fall, and there's that gap in there. I'm not sure. Until I see more years of data, I really can't make an informed decision. I think it could be students, perhaps during the years that we were on COVID, we really did prioritize our standards. We knew that with half-day Wednesdays and certain school shutdowns, that we had to focus on the most important standards, and the supervisors worked very hard to inform the teachers what standards they could move down the list of priority. I don't want to say forget completely, but we focused on the areas that the state guided us were most important. And we did that in the year prior to last year. Then last year, we went somewhat back to normal, really delving in, and we had school. We were really not interrupted, and we focused on all of it. We went back to the full spectrum of learning that we've always done, where in the years prior, again, we had to let some things go because we were remote at times, we were on half days, we had an interrupted schedule. I don't know if that's the reason or not, that the focus of the priority standards in school, and then that's exactly what was assessed, that they did well. And then a year later, when the focus was on all, but the assessment was on the priority standards, that could be one reason. I don't know for sure if that is the reason. I don't.
Thank you.
You're
That's the
welcome.
only question I have.
Anybody else have a question for Ms. Weldon? Mrs. Hayes?
I have a couple questions. Thank you as always. Last year was 99 slides. This year was 95. So I don't know what you condensed, but
I think September or October was
like 100 and something.
105,
So,
maybe 105.
starting off with some of the positives. So grade 4, there were some positives, right? So that's all good to celebrate. ELLs seem to have been some upticks. What has ELL been doing differently? Like, is there any new curriculum or any new focus? Because I kind of view that as a big jump, even if it's a little jump, because we've had such problems with that subgroup in testing. So is there anything like new?
I think over the last, I'm going to say 3, maybe even 4 years, we have changed our direction with ELL instruction, where we are no longer looking at the ELL teachers alone to educate RLs. And we are working on training our general education teachers on how to better meet the needs of RLs in class. And this started, I believe, with John Bosmans as the supervisor, which now is probably about 4 years ago, when we brought in the concept of the can-do descriptors, and we educated all teachers about what an ELL student can do based on their performance on the access testing. And that was carried on when Ms. Lepuznik followed him, and Mr. Emick, and now Ms. Villa. They have continued to grow that program each year, and our staff becomes more informed and more educated on how to meet the needs of our RLs. I think we are just beginning to scratch the surface. The work is not done, but I do believe that transition a few years back has led to some improvement in many ways. Test scores, maybe. Also, the seal of biliteracy, opening more opportunities and helping more of our staff see the potential of our RLs and providing more opportunities for our RLs, I think has had an impact.
That's some of the stuff personally I love to hear, almost more than some of these numbers, that you guys took a new idea, put it into practice, and it's showing some kind of gains. So I celebrate that story. Thank you for sharing that. 6th to 7th grade math. was one of the slides that got to my attention. So, and I think you did from last year's 6th grade, this year's 7th grade. So this was the beginning of the school year. So the 7th graders this year, it's really testing. Like it was like, oh, they're 6th grade last year. Okay, so I got that. That was a pretty big drop, like 65-ish to 25-ish. I don't think it's a surprise that I really don't like the 87 minutes, the extended periods. Have we taken into consideration, because to me, my brain goes, oh, this is the first year these kids were in these 90-minute classes. So, and I know there's different argument on folks who like the 45-minute classes versus the 87-minute classes. Have we been looking at that? Like, do we think that might have anything to do with some of this, that going to the block system?
I think the schedule, Mr. Amato has looked at that schedule and tweaked it a few times now and presented other versions of it that maybe the staff collectively have decided have not been the best. This is the one that they have now. I don't know if I point to the schedule as the reason for any test scores. I think our NJSLA results were stronger for these students than our Start Strong results. So again, I go back to, I don't know how much weight I should put on these Start Strong results. I think I should use them to drive instruction and look at a skill a student might not have or may not have grasped and reteach it, and help the teachers to have the supervisors help the teachers to reteach it, and then assess whether or not they have the skill now. But I don't know that these results would drive us to change a schedule.
Okay. And I think this is my last question. Science is something we're now going to be looking a little bit more based on your presentation.
I think, and I said this with the NJSLA results as well, I think the science assessment, so this was, again, grades 6, 9, and 12, assessing, and the beginning slide showed you that the 6th grade test assessed grades 3 to 5 science, that, during the school shutdown, science and social studies certainly were the areas that were moved lower down on the priority list, and we focused on literacy and math. And we're getting back to that real rich science instruction at the elementary level and trying to build that back into our schedule, in a more substantial way. But at the secondary level, Mr. Sullivan has been working with his teachers to bring back, when we used to have the biology competency test, there was a buildup to that test. Students knew they were taking it. There was an excitement around it. Teachers held after school sessions to get students excited about it. They held extra support sessions. If you had science during one semester, but the test was in the other semester, the teachers invited students back like a few weeks before the test. And there was all this buildup around a test. And then the test changed a little bit, and whether we were taking it in 5th grade or 6th grade or 8th grade or 9th grade. And I think it just did not have the importance that it should. And all year long this year, as I said earlier in the year, we are trying to bring back, without bringing the anxiety and the stress, we are trying to bring back the importance of every day doing your best. Bring your best, whatever that may be. Try, give something your all in any setting, in a social setting, in an academic setting, in an athletic setting, that, we're back to school now, and we're back to performing, and we're back to reaching new heights and focusing on our strengths, and, accommodating for our weaknesses, but not letting those hold us back. And that's a whole school effort, all 5 schools in their own way, working on mental health, wellness, kindness, acceptance, and success as one of the things that is part of life and part of growing up and part of becoming a contributing citizen to a community. So without focusing so much on test performance, we are focusing on test performance. That makes any sense.
I probably didn't ask my question fully. Well, that was awesome to hear too. Did we? What I was getting at is, I wanted to ask: did we do anything different last year? Like, did we buy any new science curriculum, or did we do a bunch of new books, or was that social studies or something? If that is not,
Yeah, we did buy a new social studies program, I think, 2 years ago. We updated our literacy program last year, Wonders. We purchased new math textbooks.
Okay.
But in science, over the last few years, you probably have heard things like mystery science and some it's escaping Ignites, I'm gonna forget what it's called, but another program at the secondary level to do more digital learning of science.
Okay.
It's gonna escape me the name, but no major textbook purchase in the last couple
changes.
years.
Okay.
Just
Thank
a
you.
few different products or resources for intervention mostly
Thank
to
you.
supplement what we do.
Scarlett?
I have two questions.
Mhm.
Thank you for the presentation. So in the very beginning, you were talking about how the Start Strong tests don't replace they don't. I don't know, I guess I'm asking, are they comparable to standardized tests in any way? Like, do you see students who do relatively well on the NJSLA also do well on this, or are they completely different?
No, I wouldn't say that. The state encourages us not to compare them. That's their statement that they put out. We found, generally speaking, that our students did better on NJSLA last spring at the end of the year, assessing them on the content that they had that school year compared with their performance in the fall on the same standards in a quick snapshot assessment of those same standards. That's a general statement.
Okay.
But if a student traditionally does well on something, does that mean they did not do well on this? No, that would not be a true statement.
Okay.
Okay.
And then my second question is, I'm wondering, I don't know if this is possible, but can you give us an example of an intervention that's taking place in the classroom? Like I have a sixth grader, so like sixth grade. But
Sure.
what's something, their math, for that cohort with math, staying about the same. So what would be an intervention?
So the score reports, this one, our Lincoln benchmarks, as well as NJSLA, will tell us what standards the student struggled with.
Okay.
We have a program, iExcel, which is a digital platform where the teacher can select the standards that the student needs reinforcement in. They can work on that skill and then assess again whether or not they've mastered that skill or that standard. That's one example.
So, and I'll say that I have a sixth grader, he does IXL.
Mhm.
When he's doing that, those are standards that are based on his needs specifically. It's not.
I would say in September, they absolutely were. And as we go through the year, they should be as well. It may also be that a teacher sees a trend that the whole class struggled.
The whole class.
And then maybe the whole class is working on a reinforcement, right? Or small groups of students are working on different skills like that. So definitely at the beginning of the year, but yes, it's intended to be targeted to the needs of the students and of the class and or the grade. So if we saw a tendency across a grade that they missed a standard from fifth grade, that they didn't grasp, as generally speaking, there may be reinforcement of that as well.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Weldon, so much. Great presentation.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to move on our agenda to the, I'm sorry. Dr.
You-
Steinway, are you
I
finished?
was gonna say, do you think I have more? No, that includes, that
That
concludes my,
concludes your report.
yes.
Then we'll move to Ms. Truba.
Sure. Some housekeeping. Several weeks ago, Patty DeAngelis from my office sent out the disclosure forms that need to be filled out. So I just wanted to remind the team, if you haven't done that, if you can complete it, that would be helpful. And then the other thing that we wanted to do tonight, Mary Ann, could you put up the solutions architect scenarios for 163 Monmouth? So we had talked through this. There were very little questions that came from the board. The ones that did, Tom did answer, and I circled back. But I think we need to decide which option we would like to pursue so that I could start getting a market assessment, potentially working with the town if we have to do anything with zoning, and then marketing the property.
I'm not sure if I think you asked us to send you our.
I've only heard from two people, so
Option 1, 2, or 3. So if you haven't, you might want to go back to the board minutes and review those 3 options and then send your choice to Ms. Truba.
well, do we want to do it? Do we feel that we could do that tonight?
Want to do it
Yeah,
as a group tonight?
I could ask and we could narrow it down and see if there's any additional questions, but option one. Was just the upgrades to this building, being able to sell the back 5 lots and then utilizing some of that money. And if we could only fix portions a year, then that's what we do. Option two was to look at the original plans that we had with moving maintenance, creating a whole new maintenance area at TOIS, and then using a piece of TOIS to bring the administrative building folks there and then selling this whole piece of property. And then the last one is if you didn't want to sell anything, what would we need to do to, maybe knock down this building and move maintenance, transportation, and the admin office all to this space?
Can I just ask one general question? I'm sorry. When we had, and I probably should have emailed this, but when we had the discussion last time, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I felt like Dr. Spankowitz was saying that option two was sort of off the table.
What we were saying is that doesn't go without risk because the wetlands that were all around TOIS.
I'm not even talking about the wetlands. I'm talking about that now the space that we were talking about moving admin into includes now our new electives over at the middle school.
Yeah, we're gonna have to move things around. Absolutely.
So the cost might not even be that. It might even be more based on the fact that you have to find a new place for black box theater. That was not in that cost. That was just in retrofitting rooms that existed, but not moving things that we've now.
Well, no, I think it did.
It did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because when he redid it, he knew,
That we would have to
Tom
move that
knows
stuff.
where everything is,
Okay.
correct?
So you're gonna go around and we're just gonna say one, two,
I'm
three.
just gonna, right, I'm gonna take it, just say 1, 2, or 3.
Mr. Fake, you have any question?
Yeah, no, I see the cost for each, but we still don't know in terms of, the appraisal of how much we would get.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's why I need to know what we want to do. So if the
So
answer
that we
is we're
can-
willing to sell 5 lots in the back, then I have to do the market assessment. I have to do all of that to see how much of that 6.7 million we would get. And that's why I'm saying that option one might take years to do.
wouldn't it be critical information to know though? Because then we know, the full, cost and.
Well, the issue is we did get a market assessment for this entire piece of property. It was $3.1 million.
I think.
So
that's
then they
before.
came back and they said, well, if you come up with parcels of land, the parcels might be worth more if you could sell them individually. But we have not gone back out for a market assessment because we're really at a crossroads as to what we want to do.
Mr. McCarthy?
What do I do if I don't want to sell any of this land? At all? How do
Zero.
I vote?
I think we say zero.
Okay.
Yeah, you could abstain if you don't want.
No,
I
you say.
don't abstain. I think that the option that I would desire for this district is not presented up here, and I mean, that's frankly why, I didn't, no, it's just that. Well, I mean, I've assumed though that the costs in option one, because we don't have a market assessment, remain the same for whatever upgrades are required of this building.
Upgrades do need to happen, correct?
So if I say that I want to pursue the upgrades that are required to happen, but I am not willing to pursue sale of the land.
I gotta take money out of capital reserve and do it little by little.
Okay,
But but what he's saying is when you call on Mr. McCarthy tonight, he's not gonna say 1, 2, or 3. He's gonna say option 4.
We'll say 0.
yeah,
zero.
I'm not willing to, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hayes?
One thing, kind of similar to what Steve was saying, haven't we gotten some, pseudo offers from folks anyway? So wouldn't we want to know if there were some offers for the land?
The offer is for the gentleman that keeps on calling. He wants like a 20 by 20 piece of property so he could put a pool in. He doesn't want to buy like a parcel. And when I talked to our architects, he said, you're much better off selling either the 5 pieces all together with a use of how they could be built on.
Mhm.
Or sell each parcel individually so that a house could go onto each one. So he does not recommend, taking a lot and doing a 20 by 20 piece of
Yeah.
property.
I'm sorry, I was under the impression that we had several realtors say. I got Joe Schmo who's
No.
willing XYZ to pay you for all of this.
No.
Okay, that was one question. And my second question is, now I'm forgetting it. All right, I'll think about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we decide that we're gonna potentially look at selling the back piece of property, there's a lot of work to be done. This is not gonna happen overnight. Right? And let's say we do sell the back 5 pieces of property. It doesn't say that we automatically have to do all of this at one time. So I mean, I just at this point, I think I need direction as to what the board wants to do so that we can move forward with something. Because this has been an ongoing discussion, my understanding, for
Yes,
many years, correct?
it has been.
Okay.
And I will say that,
Hello,
Mr. I'm
wait,
sorry,
excuse me.
sorry.
Mrs. Hayes, did you remember your other question?
I did. When was the last market assessment that was 3.5 million? It didn't have comps. I thought we decided, no, but it had comps in like other towns and like Livingston. It wasn't like in the Monmouth County area. I thought we said.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he did have comps in the area. He did.
I didn't think.
But we all felt it was too low.
Yeah, and how long ago was
The
this?
market assessment you did was $2 million. Then we went back out a year later and it went up to $3 million.
And when was that?
I've been here a year, so it's within a year.
And we went over these options at a previous meeting.
Oh,
as well,
yes, multiple times.
to
Yeah.
Discuss them. Are there any other questions? This is Truba.
Okay, so Ms. Beal,
0.
Mr. Clayton,
1.
Ms. Hayes,
I don't love them all, so I'm going to pick the best one to move it along. I'm picking 2.
Mr. McCarthy.
0.
Ms. McGovern,
0.
Ms. Prolamus,
0.
Celerico,
Touring between 1 and 2. Can't vote for 2. I'll say 1.
Ms. Tortorella,
2.
Ms. Gilman,
1.
Can you clarify what 0 means? Like, do you all like the
nothing.
same thing?
right? Do nothing.
Just don't like.
Sell property.
Don't want to sell on property.
But
So which means all the upgrades have to come out of capital.
so does that mean, like, is this a binding vote or something? Does that mean
Well,
that
right
now
now,
we have
it's
to?
1, 2, 3, 4 are zeros. 1, 2, 3 are ones and 2 are 2. So 0 is 1.
Listen.
So we haven't gone anywhere.
Majority board as opposed to majority. You don't have a majority of the board.
I understand what
I
I'm
just
saying.
say, my,
I just think if we're not gonna do this, we have to stop talking about this till after the budget's put together, right? I mean, we got other things that we really have to focus on with that.
I don't understand where people think we're gonna get money from to do.
Yeah, if you,
I gotta
right.
save it along the way.
The changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can't do anything without the money from the sale of the property.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the only option unless, $7 million drops out of the sky
exactly.
and we can renovate the building piece by piece. But, we've discussed this for a very long time and we've given Ms. Truba some direction and then all of a sudden now we've pulled back. But we've discussed these 3 options. We went over the 3 options. She asked for questions. No one, well, one person gave her questions,
What- can I
but that's it.
Why do
Ms.
you,
Tortorella.
I'll say,
why don't we?
Ms. Tortorella.
Why don't we wanna sell? Is it nostalgia or is it something?
no, I think, oh, go ahead.
Well,
You want to say something?
those,
Ms. Collins.
someone who voted 0. Mr. McCarthy?
Just for the record, when we discussed even going down this path, I said that I didn't want to go down this path to begin with. So I had stated to everyone in this board, I said, I don't think that this is a good use of the finances of the district, because I'm not going to support anything that will involve any sale of the land here. And the reason is because I don't believe that that's the best decision for us to make for this district.
Okay,
And I have to leave it at that. But so that's why I didn't want to go down this path. And just to be clear, I think that there were other people that agreed with me, but they said that they were willing to go down this path because other members of the board had asked them to consider it. And I said no, you know, that I was not interested in considering it, but other people did. And now we've come down this path. And I think some people are saying, hey, I'm not considering this. You know, we've seen the options that are available, and this does not look like it's something that is a good idea for the
So,
district.
so just for the record, you would like to have things remain status quo,
I want to do the bare minimum to this building
okay?
that we are required by law. So
Which
that-
is $1.9 million, and that money is gonna come from,
It's 1.9 million plus the fire escapes.
I don't appreciate that line of questioning personally, but
no,
I
I'm
understand.
just
There's a
wondering,
million areas that we need to find funding. I agree with you. I agree with you. And I've been saying here in this very room for months now that we all have objectives that we want to achieve and that funding needs to come from somewhere. And I've been pointing out that we have issues with our budget being cut. So I agree with you that that is a problem, that we have a financial issue in this district. And I have been saying that I think that we should try to find some sort of way to lobby it. Now, nothing has been done about that. And so if I'm asked, where is this money going to come from? My only response is I have been saying that we are going to have financial issues since I've come on this board
but let
due
me-
to our budget cut.
okay,
And so I have said that I even think that it was a waste of money for us to go down this path.
okay, thank you. Ms. Beal, you had a comment because I know that you had expressed a desire to move in some direction.
Yeah, so from the beginning, I thought it was a complete waste of time to talk about this. Because the question that I asked, what was the holdup previously? And forgetting about COVID, because COVID has affected everything. The response was there was nowhere to go.
You
And
mean from here?
from here,
Mhm.
and I still don't have an answer to that question. So I would like for us to finally stop talking about this. And where we are is where we are. I think that again, some people have sentimental value and we're not going to get a majority to move forward in a progressive way. This is a dead end topic and let's stop talking about it. We have now voted and majority said, keep it as is. And we're still talking about it because some people don't like the outcome of the vote.
It's not that I like the outcome of the vote, I just wanted to understand because 0 wasn't an option. I was just asking what the option was for clarification on why people were not choosing one of these. It's not about not liking it, just to clarify.
And if we were to stay in this building and leave everything as it is, we still would have to do the upgrades to meet the ADA requirements and the fire escape upgrades, you know, even if we stayed right here. So again, the question is funding, and even if we suddenly had an S2 infusion, we might not even be able to use it for the renovation of this building. And that's why Ms. Truba was
And I
pursuing.
understand it,
these-
but I didn't see in any of these options, where are we going? That question still has
Well,
not been.
for option
to
number one,
TOS.
we're going nowhere. We're going here and we're upgrading. We're staying. For option two, it was a relocation to TOIS, but as Dr. Stefanowitz had explained, that is kind of a moot point because the places we were going to go are now being utilized by other classes. Option three is just complete demolition. So the only one that answers your question is option one. We stay here.
Why is option 2 even an option? Because you're now saying it's not an option.
Right.
He never said it was moot, though. He said we're gonna find creative ways to move those places that have since moved into somewhere else. There is plenty of room at TOIS and high school.
Lands that also became an
Sure.
issue and that the
Yeah.
DEP would probably not approve any kind of building,
For many years.
even when we examined that previously. So where are we going? Either here and or TOIS, which I'm not sure is feasible, given the wetland situation.
So we're still here.
So if we're here and we stay here, I guess the next question that you would want answered is, how do we upgrade? How do we do the ADA upgrades and the fire escape upgrades in order to, meet the bare bones requirements? We put in
Some
one
of the fire
bedroom.
escapes, you'll see when we go through some of the
In your
analysis.
presentation.
I did put it in, like, that's the first thing I'm trying to tackle.
Do you want to hold
Because
off on
I'm,
that?
you know,
until you see her presentation? Would board members prefer to do that before you?
I mean, just as a point of inquiry, so is there a new motion on the floor? Because I believe that now we voted and
Yeah.
then it's time to move on, and the time for debate is over. So I don't understand why.
No,
we're still debating
we're
the
just
topic.
clarifying. We're not debating, Mr. McCarthy. The people who voted on the zero option, we know where your stance is, that you don't want anything sold, but again. The spiel, where are we going? Okay, here. But then if we stay here, as Ms. Truba's presentation will show, there are certain things that need to be fixed in this building.
I just personally don't feel as though a sale is going to be realistic. That's just gonna be another long, drawn out process, taking up more time in meetings.
Well, it's part of the budget presentation anyway.
No, we're she's saying that she doesn't think
Yeah.
that option one is gonna be something that's gonna be feasible. It's gonna go on for years, trying to figure out the sale or something to even do the sale, time, money and whatever. So that's, which is a lot of me too.
So, because I don't want to keep on spending money on architects, engineers,
And it's
you know.
just-
yeah.
A motion has died,
That's
we should never
perfect.
talk about it
Okay,
again.
good.
Let's do it again in 6 years.
All right.
So that's it for the BA report.
Well, thank you very much.
Seems to be what we'd like to do.
We'll now move to the public comment section of our agenda. And
I believe we do have a comment.
all motions are posted on the district website. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of two public comment sessions. The first session will be open for public comments on agenda items only. The second session will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would anyone from the public like to comment on any agenda item at this time? Ms. Conway, do you have anyone? in the-
Yes, President Gilman, we have Tiffany Fisher. Please go ahead.
Ms. Fisher?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to talk about, I don't know if any of you have heard of the Bombers Beyond Cafe in Sayreville. Has
I-
anybody heard of this transitional program?
Yes.
Okay. So my question was, what transitional programs does Ocean have? And could it be possible for Ocean Township to do something like this?
It's similar to what's in.
Is that,
Look into
is
it.
that something you're familiar with?
So it's a program designed, it provides work experience to bridge the gap between school and adult students, special needs.
It's a cafe that the special needs kids run outside of school 1 day a week. And it's like a program for their 19 to 21-year-olds, if I'm not mistaken. For
And the
the,
teachers run it. It's teacher run.
Yeah.
But it's part of the district.
May I?
Certainly.
Yeah, well, as part of our 18 to 21-year-old program, we have multiple opportunities for students to go out into the public and work in a variety of different environments. We don't have a place, I think, similar to what you're referring to, but we have work experience opportunities for our students in the 18 to 21-year-old program. And they are monitored and we have teachers and aides who work with the students and that's part of their program.
Is it like a job coach or a VOC or what
Yes.
is it exactly?
Yeah, exactly. It's not part of Oak, it's part of our program, but there's a job coach, there's people who monitor and work with, people within the workforce community, the labor force to teach, skills that students will need to be successful upon graduation.
Okay, I've never heard of that for high school, but
Yes.
okay.
The program has been in place for a while.
Yeah.
And many of those students are placed in local businesses, including Applebee's or the SPCA. And again, they're monitored with job coaches and teachers. And they also run a kind of a food service in the high school where they make breakfast available to any and all staff members. And the money they raise from that is used to purchase food.
Okay, is that the super seniors you're talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, because my son does that already in 3rd grade. they work on making chocolate pretzels and going door to door to each classroom to sell them to get money to do fun things for Friday. So that's the same thing for 3rd grade and 12th grade?
Well, it's,
I'm sorry if I may.
Go ahead.
The 18 to 21-year-old program is much more extensive than that. They're out in the community in various business, working, establishing, the necessary job skills that they need to be able to be successful, post 21 and post ultimate graduation. The 3rd grade program is within a building. It's also a skill-based program, but it's at a lesser scale.
May I just make
Yeah.
a point? Ms. Fisher, I have a daughter, I'm speaking as a parent here, that is in the MD program in the high school. She's only 16, so she's not in the 18 to 21 yet. But I will say I've been extremely impressed with the class trips that they've taken. I feel like I'm signing class trip slips I signed 2 tonight, and one of them was actually to go to the similar type cafe that you're talking about that's in Red Bank. So there's definitely there are definitely places for them to go and ones to so it grows as Dr. Spankowitz was saying, from 3rd grade up, it grows as their skills grow and as they're, leading to more independence. There is more independent things to learn about. So they're going to the Sheridan to learn about different jobs in the Sheridan. That's one of the things, so that when they get to the 18 to 21-year-old program, it's not just saying, okay, everybody goes to work at Applebee's. It's saying, okay, Mrs. Parlamas likes to work at Applebee's, while Miss Tallarico would like to work at the SPCA, while Miss Gilman would like. So it's more tailored to the students. So it's definitely, you'll see as it goes, as they get older, the in-depth of the trips and how it gets tailored in the MD program, at least, is I'm impressed with it as a parent, let alone as a board member.
I hope that answers your question. Ms. Fisher?
That answers one of them for now. But I wanted to talk about, is there any way that there could be any programs to expand like what you have now, as far as okay, for example, like horticulture, I know you guys have a gardening club, right? But have you ever thought of working with Kula Farms and growing vegetables and donating it to them, having the students learn and then giving back to the community?
We do all kinds of.
We do something similar to that.
programs. I think, if I may, Ms.
Certainly.
Fisher has curriculum questions or questions involving any special education programs. You could contact Ms. Weldon or contact Ms. Hanson, who could answer those questions directly.
That probably would be best.
Okay, I will.
Thank you very much. Ms. Conway, is there anyone else in the queue?
No, Madam President, there is not.
Thank you very much. Let's move to our action items. Mr. McCarthy, would you read the approval of minutes, please?
Absolutely, Madam President. Move to approve items 7.1 and 7.2. I do not see an attachment for 7.3
Which there?
online. What did you say?
Center.
Oh, okay. So move to approve items 7.1 through 7.3.
Second.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments on the minutes? Corrections? No?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Ms. McCarthy. Our financial management and resource services, Ms. Tortorello.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilman. We have 3 items this evening for a vote. So make a motion on 8.1 through 8.3, and then 8.4 through 8.11, which have been previously posted or up for discussion.
Second.
So do we want to take the vote first
No question
on,
first.
or questions on, go ahead.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yeah, what were the acronyms and the use of facilities, please?
Which one do you,
I think there was only one.
QBIQ stands for quarterback intelligence quotient.
Is that for real?
I'm
It's
sorry,
a
I
camp.
totally didn't hear that.
It's a camp. It's
QBIQ is a football camp. It stands for Quarterback Intelligence Quotient, as in QBIQ.
and it's a profit
You
organization.
learn something new every day?
For
Thank you.
profit, Yeah.
You learn something.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we vote? Mr. McCarthy?
I just don't understand 8.2. I know, I'm sorry if I'm missing something, but
That's co-op that I think Ms. Truba had
in
explained.
the attachment, there's only a blank table.
Oh, she put the blank table. What we do.
That's it. That's class.
Every year what we do is we, because of how expensive it is to put all the different awards, you have to put in the paper all your professional service contracts.
Okay,
So we join with Monmouth Regional
okay.
and we collectively all put it in together to split the costs. So there should be a table there that says, you know, we have Michael Gross as an attorney, we have solutions architect, we have, it's all our professional services and the fact that we're going to be using them this calendar year. That's all.
So we're just voting to approve that we are
We
making,
put it in the paper and
Put it
join
in
that
the paper.
cooperative. That's it.
and what is the cost to,
But there, it's thousands of dollars, but we paid maybe a couple hundred.
okay,
It's not a lot of money.
all right, thank you.
Sorry about that. I'll
Good
get that
questions.
fixed.
Yeah, good
I
question.
honestly just thought I was missing something, so it was.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are playing games. It's the brochure, you're gonna be German. You know, but I was the only one.
Only you got. So we're voting 8.1 to 8.3.
Steele,
Yeah. That was the best.
Mr. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes,
Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Palamas.
Yes.
Ms. Talarico.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella,
Yes,
Ms. Gilman,
Yes.
motion carries. Okay, discussion, it's a regular, development of,
Want to go to the budget?
yeah, well, does anybody have any questions on anything other than the budget stuff that we want to present?
Mrs. Hayes?
The translation device, what's that gonna, that looks cool and awesome. What's it going to be used for? For like parent events or is this for staff?
Well, right now, we're piloting two. One is gonna go to,
Registration.
oh, registration's definite, but I'm not sure where's, I don't know where Cecilia plans on using it.
Yeah, I think they want to use it for, a variety of purposes, child study team meetings where translation may be needed, any parent, meetings parent student conferences. I mean, there's a number of, one would definitely be used here. We get a lot of individuals
Yeah,
here.
we need it.
And right now we do use apps and other people, live individuals who have to translate, but this I think will, be a really nice addition and.
And is it something that
It's
somebody wears on there, they have to.
Yeah, it's almost like the app you would put on your phone. It's similar. There's a picture.
I see the picture, but I didn't know if that was everything.
And you can either type into it or speak into it and it translates in whatever, many languages.
Great.
And then what also is very nice about it is that if need be, you can access live translators through the device if it's needed.
So on those parent engagement sessions and events where I've asked for a live translator, that's an adult, not a student, for example, is this something that we could use? And this person could broadcast out, into Portuguese for.
Yeah, I mean, for large events, I'm not sure how well it would work in that capacity, but I think it's more suited for one-on-one in small group settings, but we can certainly
Look into
see
it.
if
We're just
that's
piloting it right
possible.
now.
Yeah, I think
Just
we want
piloting.
to
Awesome.
see how we can utilize it. All right.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
just
Mr.
for
McCarthy.
8.6, the traverse. That's just for the transport of students,
Yeah.
but that is used
That
for.
only.
Thank you.
We have several students that go. They're
Just needed to know
handicapped
that's for
and it's
transport.
they're far, and I'm taking a 29 passenger bus So we got this on state contract for under $30,000.
This is part of the stabilization aid.
Yep.
Transportation, purchase.
Awesome, thank you.
It's not cost, it just makes more sense to.
Okay.
And we don't have an SUV like this. So is this something, for example, when students don't have a ride to a sports meet or something like that, and there's only like 2 or 3 students instead of a bus, and if that bus is back from wherever they needed to go from,
Yeah, we could use it.
so is that something that transportation could take to a sports meet? Okay, that's fantastic.
It is a transportation vehicle. It's for students. It'll have lettering, it'll have the whole bit.
You know, it doesn't need to be handicap accessible, or it is,
I'm sorry.
does it need to be handicap accessible for wheelchair?
It's low enough that if the child can get on a bus, it can get into the van.
If
Okay,
obviously,
yeah.
if there's a wheelchair situation that can't be.
Wheelchair,
accommodated,
we have to
we would
put
have to use
it
it.
on a bus.
You would have to use it.
Right, well, that's what I was asking, if it
Yeah.
was gonna be modified or.
I mean, if the child can be placed in the car and then the wheelchair,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
got
placed
it.
in back, I mean,
That is true.
that all depends on the situation.
Shall we move to the budget
Yeah,
items?
sure.
Yes.
Okay, so first, let's see what we got first here. Okay, the first thing that we wanted to look at was the enrollment. And I know, I broke this out in multiple ways that the board has been accustomed to looking at it, but the first one, the ASSA report, Mary Ann, if you could open that up. And I know it's an eyesore, but when you look, we're down another 80 students this year. So the enrollment does continue to decline at a pace of about anywhere from like 65 to 80 students a year. All right, if you show some of the charts, Mary Ann, that'll be helpful. So that's the free and reduced. So when you're looking, even though we're declining in enrollment, you do see like your free and reduced lunch applications, they're almost staying at the same amount. So it's becoming a larger percentage of the population here. Okay, I think right now we're at about 37%. Okay, next one. Okay, this is showing same thing with your ESL students, relatively flat. Next one. So this is what's happening to the enrollment, and I just tried to show a picture from 2012 to today. You're down, 800 kids. All right, next one. And then this is just graphing your special ed and your ESL so that you could see them both on the same chart. So when I was building, right now, what I do want the board to know is all the revenue numbers that I've come up with right now are pretty much, assumptions, because the governor has not given his address yet. I'm hearing that's going to be the week of February. Give me 1 second. The week of the 20th. I believe it's going to be on the 21st. They're saying by the next day, next business day, I should have what our revenue numbers are. Okay. But I can't wait that long to build assumptions to start the budget process, because we want to have, this is a reiterative process and we want to have conversations on this. So Mayor, if you go to 8.9 and you open up. Okay, what I tried to do with this chart. And there's 2 things that are happening this year. We have expiring bank cap. Okay, so a bank cap is the money that you did not take off of a prior tax increase, right? The 2% you gave less of it to the town. So you have up to 3 years to use it. This year, we're going to lose $166,000. But prior to using the bank cap, what the state is giving us is a one-time healthcare waiver. I think we've had that, Jim, what?
It was one, I think, right around the beginning of COVID.
Okay, so the reason they did that was because not only was the assumption this year happening, and it is happening. There's a 15% increase in healthcare for this year, all of 23. Healthcare is on a calendar year. We were able to offset the back part of that by the prescription plan. So we only saw an 8% increase, but in the whole front part of 24, the healthcare now is up again another 15%. That is the recommendation coming from the state. So our healthcare costs are going up significantly. And what the state is allowing for is a one-time healthcare waiver that you put in your healthcare, you tell them what your dental expenses are, what your vision expenses are, you do it year over year. And right now, based on the PCR, which is our position control roster, all the people that we have in district, our healthcare cost waiver is like $900,000. So they're saying we are going to allow you to increase your tax levy increase by $900,000, and you do not need to vote on that. You don't have to go to a taxpayer to ask for that. So what this first scenario shows is taking the full 2% from the town, okay? Using the healthcare waiver and using the expiring bank cap. All right. What is also happening is debt service from the referendum. You borrow money. The town also pays a portion of that. We had money come off of debt service this year. So that money is less 0.57%. Okay. So the total increase, if I did everything that the state is telling us to do, would be 2.97% increase on your tax base.
Which is well above the 2%.
It's well above.
Right, so we would not have to go to a vote for that because they're allowable.
So that's scenario one. All right. Scenario two, I'm saying take the 2%, but only use a piece of the healthcare.
Mr. McCarthy,
Can you just clarify what you just said, and so we would not have to go to the referendum if you go to.
We would not have to, and if using a bank cap and using an allowable waiver enables you to not have to go out for a vote, even though you're over the 2%.
Up to what percentage?
Could be anything.
It doesn't matter. It depends on your- it depends on the amount of money.
To like 10%
Yeah.
increase.
Correct. And remember, the bank cap is there because in previous years, you didn't go up to the full 2%. We didn't go up to the full percent. So that money that is below the 2%, whatever that dollar amount is, gets kept in a bank. You know, in a bank somewhere, not a real.
And you use it for 3
And you
years.
have up to 3 years to utilize it. So
Thank you.
in essence, you didn't use it here, but it allows you up to 3 years. Now, after this year, that $166,000 will be gone and will not be able to be utilized.
And I can't use the 166 unless I use the whole healthcare waiver.
Right.
So you have to use the healthcare waiver first, and then you could use the 166. That's why I did scenario.
Before you, and I'm sorry, T, but before you go on to 2 and 3,
Mhm.
I think maybe we jump in and kind of let that know what that means,
Okay.
okay? So,
Well, that's the next page.
right, so I think it's good to just kind of get that sense of where
Okay.
it is, all right, so just to have the board understand, so with using the full healthcare waiver and using the bank cap and with the debt service at 2.97%, and with when really bare bones additions to technology capital and really personnel with pretty much nothing. And cuts we've already made in the area of personnel, people we're not going to replace, people who've left during this year, we're not going to replace, things like that. We are, and looking at supplies, we are still about $1 million to cut so we can be at that 2.97%. Okay? So does everybody grab that? We would still need to cut to be at 2.97%. That's assuming another $1 million in cuts. All right. Now, I'm sorry if I can just finish that.
go ahead, finish.
At this stage, in a budget where 90% of the budget is salary and health benefits, there is no conceivable way we are going to cut $1 million in paper clips and pencils. This will mean we will have to, regardless, there will be, and we've been able to kind of put this off, and we've been warning people about this for a number of years. The ARP and the ESSER monies have helped us. We've made cuts predominantly through attrition. I think we've run out of time, and we are looking at, $1 million is probably somewhere between 10 and 15 positions. And that means that's not going to all be done through attrition. I say that now and in this point, because as Tina goes through scenario 2 and scenario 3, realize that scenario two, scenario one's the best case scenario in terms of the least amount we'd have to cut. If the board is not comfortable with scenario one and wants to go with scenario two or scenario three or scenario four, which is be at 2%, I guess that's a scenario four,
Yeah.
then that's additional cuts, which will more than likely translate to additional people and positions and people.
Yeah, the next set of slides will show you how these scenarios
So
impact.
just understand that.
And my comment was, all of this is based on numbers without the announcement of state aid.
Well, what I did, just to let everybody know, and it's in the revenue sheet, so Mary Ann got, all right, so what I did was 750 for scenario two, 500 for scenario three, which takes you down to 2.16, okay? So I'm just showing you some of the flexibility for every $250,000, what's happening. You know, it's basically 0.4 of an incremental, point. So go to the next chart, Mary Ann. Okay. So when you look at this, and you got to get to so right now what Jim is saying, so this is showing what's happening. Okay, now remember on the other chart, it was showing 3.54%. And then the debt service comes off of that. So you're at like 2.97. Well, just what's happening with the loss of the state aid, taking that tax levy, right, only gives you 2.5% increase in your budget. Because you're losing the stabilization, your adjustment aid is coming from your S2 formulary, which is $319,000. And because we're getting the enrollment decline, I assumed that we were getting 95% of last year's aid for all the other line items. Now, I could be wrong there, right? I mean, it's just an assumption. But at a minimum, we know we're losing $319,000.
Which is more
That's the-
palatable than.
Right, I mean, I don't know. Well, last
That's-
year was higher.
That's built in.
That's already built in. I know
Millions
all
are
this in.
taking that into
That's an
consideration.
awful high number.
Okay, so when you look at
I'm
the
sorry.
bottom,
Ms. Tallarico has a question
okay,
before we,
let
from
me
the
just,
last slide.
when you look at the bottom, it's showing that you're 1.067 short of even hitting that number,
And that's using all of the
Everything.
bank
It's-
cap and
it's-
the waiver.
using the
So for every-
166 and the 902.
Right, so for each, scenario two that Tina had on there,
Right.
would make it now about 1.3 million
Yeah, so
shy.
go down to the
And
next slide.
scenario two would
Mary
make
Ann.
it about another, or scenario three would make it about 1.6
So
million.
we only use 750. We got to make up 1.386. If we use 500, go down to the next one. Okay, so you're losing 300,000 there, and if you go to, so it's 1.6. And we did go through, we met once as a team. Principals, administrators, we all got together. We went through the budget, we went through all the supplies. Then now towards this week is when we have to start talking about additional things that we have to do inside the district.
Correct. And remember, stabilization aid cannot, and any future stabilization
Right.
aid cannot be used for personnel.
Right, only one-time costs.
Right.
And what they did advise, and I'm just making the board aware of it, I know I had this conversation on our call on Friday. But what we were told is with the ROD grants coming out, which I've applied for capital projects, I put the 2 roofs in that. I'm applying for every grant that I can get at this point. But what they're saying is, if we're not using, and they're not seeing that the taxpayer is also engaged, okay, in covering the expenditure of the school. So if we don't use all our waiver and all our bank cap, they are not going to look kindly on that
They would be,
in terms of giving grants.
if you haven't utilized all of what you're allowed to use,
Without
be
going,
less inclined to give us more.
Right, to give us as much,
Correct.
yeah.
So we should use number one is what that argument
The issue is, I mean, that's a board decision. I mean, as a business administrator, I would say yes. but it's really a board decision because it is gonna
We-
increase the tax levy to
We
0.97%.
need your direction.
Right.
As to what you would like us to do, because once again, are we looking at $1 million more? Are we looking at $1.6 million more? And that's, we're to a point, we just want to be very upfront and frank about it. We're at a point where we're talking about people. That's what we're talking about.
Ms. Tellerico.
My question is about the upgrades to this building though. Are they in this or are we gonna be asking the taxpayer for that additional money?
No,
Intact.
right now, the only thing that I've put in to the budget, okay, and I'm
Is it-
pulling out from maintenance reserve to do it, is $55,000 worth of fire escapes. Our capital increase year over year is, we have no capital in our budget. We can't afford it.
So would that suggest that we would be going a second time to ask the public for more money?
We might. You mean, not this
year?
budget? No, not this budget. It would be the following year.
In the future.
This is not, this is gonna be a multi-year problem, because I'm dropping, just go to that one, just one of the revenue charts, Mary Ann. I'm gonna show you what we're doing. So COVID has helped us tremendously, and I hope you recall the conversation from last year. If you look where it says budgeted fund balance, right before the subtotal of the operating revenue, what this is the excess fund balance that we've been able to accumulate, right? Because we were using ESSER funds and ARP funds. I can't keep that money. So what happens is it rolls forward into our revenue and helps us with the budget for the year, the following year. So this year alone, I'm dropping $3.8 million. Okay, now consistently over the past couple of years, we've been dropping over 3.5 million. Next year, I'll be lucky if I have 2.5 there. Because now we're using more money.
And the reality is that our decline, our reduction in staff has not been level with our reduction in population, in student population. And part of that was, so it's certainly during COVID years that we were minimizing an impact on people. We were not replacing a lot of retirements. So through attrition, we were doing a lot of these cuts. And unfortunately, we knew that in time, we were not going to be able to do that. The grant funding helped us significantly to be able to not cut as many positions as we needed to cut. But once again, we can only use grant money through the end of next school year. So it's really going away. And because of that, we're getting to a point now where we just can't, there's nowhere else to go to get these funds. So, I mean, I think that it's going to be either, no matter what option we choose, there's going to be things felt. There's people who are leaving us this year who've left that we more than likely won't be able to replace those positions. Well, it'll impact class sizes. It'll impact, these things are going to be impacted over the next year. You're going to see it. Luckily, in some places, our class sizes are still relatively low. Like at the elementary level, they're still overwhelmingly low compared to many districts. So, if we're going up to 20 to 22 as a norm, that's where most districts have already been, if not higher, right? So we're still in a pretty decent place there. But there's really, we've had some luxuries the last couple of years that we're just not going to be able to hold on to. And it's going to be very tight, very tight.
Mr. Clayton.
Jim, you were saying that at the 2.97, that 10 to 15 positions might have to be eliminated through attrition or.
Continue to look for other areas, obviously, but
Do you have similar numbers to the other two options?
yeah, I mean, a person in general is probably about $80,000 between health and benefits. That's generally what we would budget for a position. So 1.6 million divided by 80,000,
But you're not saying.
give or take.
Yes.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Ms. Fields.
Oh, wait.
12 to 24,
Mrs. Fields,
basically. if you
I'm
go
sorry.
highest,
The number of positions, is that what you said?
12
Yeah.
to.
And that doesn't necessarily mean all people.
Yeah.
But we're running out of positions that we can do through attrition. Is the point.
Mrs. Beal.
So are some of those luxuries, some of the academy administrative positions where there's a lower enrollment instead of increasing classroom sizes?
What do you mean, academy administrator?
I thought that there was a push to get, I don't remember the title, but basically it was an administrator to oversee.
We cut that last year and we're not proposing that be put in the budget this year.
So the academies are run by who?
We have existing supervisors who oversee that. We didn't add anybody to that.
So those supervisors are overseeing an academy of approximately how many students?
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, we have one of the assistant principals oversees the academy programs. So, what do we have? We have right now about almost a third of the school in our Spartan schools. if not,
That an
give or take.
assistant principal is overseeing, not a
Yeah.
separate
Correct.
supervisor.
Yeah, there's nobody whose specific role is the Spartan schools. I mean, who isn't doing something else. Yeah.
Mrs. Hayes?
Hopefully these are three quick questions. The 80,000 or so a year that you've got us,
That's rough.
I mean, a month, I'm sorry, 80,000 a month on the prescription drugs. Is that factored into this?
Correct.
Okay. So
Thank goodness we have that.
yeah,
Right.
okay, so, all right, so that's even, okay. And then, we are increasing our free and reduced lunch students. So I know we become more eligible, obviously, for more grants, the higher numbers we are. Remember when Dow a couple of years ago moved up to a 42% free and reduced, and that enabled us to apply for 21st Century Grant, which we decided not to. Are any other schools at 42%? And we were fairly close for Title I for TOIS and the high school. Are we close enough yet?
Well, it's interesting because in the last couple of weeks, we received census data related to Title I, which practically, according to the census in the federal government, our Title I population has been dramatically decreased, dramatically. And we can appeal it only in terms of not necessarily the number, but that the count wasn't done correctly, which would be practically impossible for us to appeal. So we have great concerns that this could seriously decrease our Title I allocations moving forward. What we can only hope for is that the decrease has been sort of universal and that we could, that in other words, if everything kind of decreased together, then our funds might stay flat. So my point is that I don't know that we can. That might not be an area we're going to be able to make anything up.
This is a point of inquiry. What is the Title I? What is defined as Title I family?
It's typically, it's a poverty income.
So below the poverty line, family below.
There's different definitions, based on the size of the family and what have you, but it's basically low income. And
So, thank you.
Ms. McGovern?
Just to that point, I wonder, and I don't know how you would prove this, but I wonder if that's because they're taking ownership of homes and maybe not as many of the winter rentals that we have that sometimes have some of our Title I families in them.
yeah, we were not really given an explanation as to
Right,
why.
sure. The other thing what I was saying under my breath was that while it is dire and scary, and we're saying 10 to 15 positions, I don't want the rumor to get out there tomorrow that that's what we're saying we're doing, that we are looking for $1 million to try and cut, or however many dollars to try and cut without having to go to positions. I just don't want, the way it's been said a couple times, I don't want it to get out there tomorrow that we're cutting 15 positions and it's happening and we're going to 22 kids. And, I know those are scenarios and those are things that could happen. And we could have to do 5 positions or 3 positions or 0 positions, hopefully with, but who knows, but probably not. But I'm just saying, I don't want the rumor to be out there tomorrow that we're going to 26 kids in the classroom and cutting 25 teachers.
Agreed.
Yeah, but we also want to be realistic about where we are. And I'd rather, you know, in a way, come in right under what I'd rather look at worst case scenarios than best case scenarios. But when I tell you that, you know, this really is a bare bones budget with only essentials that are being added to the budget, there's just not a lot of room left to get this $1 million+ bucks. There's just not a lot. So, you know, once again, you know, when the budget, and we would be looking at all categories, you know, all job categories. I mean, when a budget is 90% of your budget is salary and benefits, you can't get large amounts of money from supplies. It's just,
We don't need a superintendent.
sounds good to me.
Just kidding.
But, you know, I mean, it's just want to have everybody be prepared. Yes, I mean, should everybody, you know, run around wondering tomorrow that they're losing their job? No, they shouldn't do that. But because we're going to work very hard to try to, whatever positions we impact, to try to not have it impact people, because you can eliminate positions without eliminating people. But it's going to be impossible not to have some cuts. It's going to be impossible.
Mrs. Hayes?
For the average tax, you know, wary person who doesn't quite understand municipal taxes, and I'm probably one of them. Can you explain this to me, Ms. Truba, in layman's terms? This year, we got 69 million from the town. Proposed next year, 72 million. Okay, so up 3.6%. Some people have proposed this or asked me this, and I don't know the answer. My house taxes, my property taxes went up way more than 3.6. So what kind of municipal relief, and I think we've talked about this before, about working with, I mean, I'm sure the town has their own budget problems and they're probably facing a lot of upticks too. But if some people are seeing, like we see this all over social media, my property taxes went up 12%, 20%. Why are people's property taxes going up?
Your rateables are going.
That's
And your
assessments.
So
100%.
when I'm showing you this number, and once we get closer, I'll run all the scenario. But once we align on what we think we want to do, you know, towards the end of, like, when I do the original end budget presentation, I will show what an average house would go up by. Now, if your assessment is higher than that average house, okay, which we get that from the town will tell, the assessor says an average home in Ocean's worth this.
7 million.
Well, we know too, that if you live in town, which most of us do, kind of required. The assessments for this year went up in many cases significantly.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes will go up, because it depends on the whole pot of assessment and where people fall. If everybody went up, everybody went up 60%, then you're basically at the same place as you were when it started. But if some went up 80%, some went up 30%, then you're going to start to see some differences. Your assessment could actually go up and your taxes could go down. That is possible. But
rare.
but
that's rare.
the school taxes it's not typical, but it's possible. The school taxes make up about 65% of your overall tax bill. What else makes it up is county and other things that, the municipal taxes. So the schools are about 65% of your tax bill, give or take. And so, what would make it go up 12% largely, in your example, would be assessment changes. And assessments. I mean, when I first moved here 25 years ago, I think we got assessed about once every, 6 or 7 years. We get assessed every year now. And it fluctuates like crazy. And, part of the problem with the assessments is they were based on probably the first part of last year, and the second part of last year really sort of leveled off, and if anything came back a little bit. So that's a big reason why taxes have gone up. And I mean, certainly the schools, we've been within the 2%. That's where we've been the last X number of years.
Yes, so that brings me, but that's part of my question. Can any of this be chatted about with council? Are there any discussions we could have on a municipal level? For those who don't understand,
Well, we certainly were gonna have those meetings. We wanted to have those meetings. I just,
If the-
if it's about assessment, I don't know that I don't know that there's anything that can be done about that. I don't know. Because it's, I mean, it's the tax
What they
assessment.
want to talk about is shared services. So if
Yeah.
we can save money
Right.
Or,
in that way,
you
but
know,
we
on new
certainly,
buildings, could you get a higher tax?
Right.
Piece of it for the school? I don't, you know, those conversations did not happen.
no.
No.
Can we move to the capital budget?
We're good?
Well,
I'm sorry, I know that there are bad news. It's the second year in a row.
I know.
You're never. I don't think it's ever been.
We're good. Add
Okay,
whatever you want.
so let's look at the capital.
1 year we added things in.
So it's all right. So to make that a little bigger, you know. All right, so what I basically am trying to show here is for 2023-24. If you look, the only thing that we put in is we have the asbestos floor removal at OTS, which we have to do.
Just to be clear, the yellow on the right, those are wish lists.
That's what everybody asked for, and if you look, most of it is a priority 2 or 3.
Right.
Some of which I did try to do this year. And we put some of it in the grant, you know, like where I could, like a floor scrubber, for example, is allowed as an allowable use against. The ARP grant, because it's cleanliness for the schools. We did the same thing with some of the door replacement. Okay, because we did get the emergent grant. Remember, I told you we got like $81,000. What John said he really needs to start doing is fixing a lot of the interior doors because the fire resistant code has gone up and we need to replace quite a few of them. All right,
We
so
would like to continue to be fire resistant.
when you look at
We would like. to continue
priority
to be fire resistant.
Yes.
for 1 for 23-24, compare it to what we did in 22-23, Mary Ann, if you go down so you could see the totals. We had $1.5 million that we did in capital projects that came out of the budgets last year. Between grants and so forth. This year, I'm only putting in 164,000.
Wow.
That's it. So we are definitely at our bare bones minimum.
Yeah.
Now, we desperately need to upgrade maintenance vehicles. Some of these cars are 20 years old. I'm quite sure if you've seen the HVAC vans, they're all rusting at the bottom. But if we can't afford that, that would be a discussion that I would have with the administrative
town.
team. I would look to take that 42 out.
Hopefully, the stabilization for next year might help.
Right, well, it could,
Right, the problem is, once again, we don't get that till mid-year, you know, we don't
Yeah.
know what we're gonna get, we can't count.
But I
on
mean,
what we're
something
gonna
like
get.
the trust
Yes, yeah,
might be able to hold out for a little bit more, right?
What's the asterisks for the HVAC and the curtain wall?
that came out of the grant.
Yeah, so that's, even though it's kind of in our
It's $1 million.
debt assessment.
We pulled money out of that came out of our capital reserve last year.
Right.
The rest of the money went against the grant. So I was trying to say, we did fund some of that project.
And the ID makers also, the high school and the intermediate.
That-
school.
yeah, those are student ID.
Yeah, that's a good
right?
thing.
Those are student ID.
Right. Ms. Tortorella,
I just have a question, under TOAS, the fire door.
Yep,
that's what she was just saying about upgrading.
Sorry, yeah, I mean, it's 9,000, okay, sorry, what, the emerging grant, so what's
yes.
that?
The emergent grant we just received, it was $81,000 and I'm applying that request against the
To
grant
that,
money.
got it,
received.
okay.
Right, so
So-
we're doing, it's just not, we're doing, it's just not gonna be in the budget.
Right.
Thank you.
Because it's
You
gonna
know,
be open.
like anything that I could do, I did, but a lot of it, most of it, we basically said we can't afford to do any of this this year.
So if it has a notation, we're doing it,
Yes.
it's not through the.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Through grants or
Alright.
aid or.
And then if you look at the IT requests. That's the next one down there. Oh, go to the end of that.
Wait.
I want to show this too. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm pulling $130,000 out of the maintenance reserve. Okay, last year we pulled 138. I'm keeping it consistent. And here's where I'm doing the $50,000 of the fire escapes. I'm gonna do a bathroom in the MD class at Wayside. And I'm doing district-wide paving. I always need money for that. So that 130 is coming out of the reserve and I'm funding that. So it's not actually taking away from, you know, expenses in the district. I'm funding that through revenue, which is coming from our reserve to do those projects.
Thank you.
I realize this is on the no way are we doing this, but is that replace 2 windows and a door in Wayside really $175,000? For 2 windows and a
It's a
door.
window bank, yeah.
Wow.
They've been trying for that
Yeah.
courtyard for years.
Mm.
To fix some of that.
Yeah, the cost of everything, I mean, the 2% is impossible this year. Because of what has happened with the healthcare, with the cost of all of these materials, I mean, they're up 30% easy. Our workers' compensation due to COVID claims, that went up $200 and something thousand. It's like 48% increase. All the insurance lines on our property, they're all up 10%.
Now for the IT requests for Chromebooks,
Yeah.
weren't we getting money for that?
This year in the grant.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
next year, it's gotta go back into our budget.
for the next grade.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, one more question. For the,
One's the maker, the other one's the guns.
Okay.
Yeah,
for the healthcare increase, you
Mhm.
said 15% this year, 50% next year.
15, yeah.
Is that only our piece or is that the employee piece as well?
The employee pieces in some cases went down. And ours went up because of the educator plan. It's a very different formula. It's costing the districts more money.
There's less contribution.
Right.
Remember when, you know, we as a district, when we did changes to the plan through negotiation, that really helped. You know, when we worked
Go back
together
to
to
the
really help
IT
that.
side. Mary.
When the state came in and changed the whole thing and put in the educator plan, it actually hurt us financially, that
Is that
plan.
because it's tiered based on salary?
It's based, it goes to a different tier and that plan, the employee contribution is less, so we actually get less in that regard, yes.
It's based on.
I mean, initially that cost us about 600,000.
I mean, 15% of 15% in 2 years.
The whole 15% is what's happening
lot.
with the healthcare.
Yeah.
For
Well,
health-
that's-
Put 15% in for 24 as well.
Just like with many other aspects of the financial world, a lot of, you know, healthcare didn't go up a lot. Or in some cases, not at all. They actually gave us a healthcare increase, I think, reprieve one of the COVID years.
No, they
You
gave us
know,
a holiday.
They
In the
right,
month
they
of
gave us the
May.
holiday, right?
They're up.
So, you know, it's called like,
What it
you
is.
know, now we're gonna rock and roll
Yeah. You're gonna pay the piper.
because our profits haven't been enough,
Hopefully the governor will keep that in mind when he
you know,
gives his speech.
like the 8 billion the oil companies made in profits from gas in the last year.
Yeah, right.
And
BP. Maybe we can
profits.
solicit them.
Profits.
If you know anybody in the gas industry, Mr. McCarthy, maybe we can beg them to help us out. Since they made so much money from
So it's
gas.
1/10 of 1%.
So the technology budget, can we move on to that?
Yes, okay, so the technology budget, what I want to show you is we put only $250,000 into this budget. Most of it is coming from the Chromebooks. So we replace anywhere normally, it's like three classes. Next year, we're replacing 2.
Mhm.
So we're doing the 5th and the 9th grade. That's $193,000 of the 250. Then we have computers for the art classroom. That's another 44,000. The rest of the stuff, like I said, you know, the barcodes, all of that kind of stuff, that we're paying for either between capital or some of it's coming out of this IT budget. All right, but we are doing a lot of projects. So if you look below, you know, the 287,000 that Senator Gopal was very helpful in getting us in the cybersecurity,
Right.
all those switches finally came in. So Mike's going to be installing them. Then we put all the elementary school switches into stabilization. We placed all of those orders. We're hearing they're all going to be coming in sometime in the spring. The esports program, we're all still meeting on that, but that's going to be a big technology initiative. And then the intercom PA upgrade in the intermediate school and the high school, that also came from stabilization. The rest of it, we're paying out of local funds this year. So that project's about $120,000. So that, the rest of that money's coming out of the 22-23 budget. So that, I mean, that pretty much tells you the story of the other lines that like where your big investments typically are. And we really cut it as much as we can at this point.
So what's the next step, Ms. Trooper? Waiting
Well,
for the
I-
announcement of our aid infusion?
Well, the next step, I think, we're gonna be meeting, we're gonna continue to meet, with the principals and the central office staff. We're gonna comb through things, looking for more opportunities to see if we find ways, like I said, you know, I might have to say, look, no maintenance vehicle. Right? I mean, these are the kind of conversations that are gonna start happening this week. And then really, as we get closer, it's a revenue discussion. Once I know what's going on with the state aid, we have to have a meeting. And then I do have to submit the budget, even though we're meeting on the 21st of March, they're asking me to have everything locked and loaded on the 20th of March in the system. So we're gonna have a lot of decisions that have to take place in the next three meetings. But I think the sense of tonight was to try to get a feel of, you know, where your head's at. in terms of-
How much, if any, over 2% are we looking to be? That's what we need to know.
Much to think about.
So as much as direction as the board can provide to us now would help us.
Yeah, it'll help the conversations.
for the next few boards.
Ms. Parlamas?
No, I.
Should we have it after 1, 2, and 3?
As much as it pains me, you know that.
I know that.
I'm
I
one of
kept
the
saying it.
stingy ones, but it pains me more to see these cuts, especially to staff. So I personally would go with 1.
Yeah, I mean, I will say administratively, and you know, I live in town, folks, so my taxes are impacted too. I think what's in the best interest of the district is to take the full healthcare waiver and take the bank cap. And for this year, be, you know, at that 2.9, we're actually benefiting from the debt service reduction. So to be at the 2.97%. I mean, we can try to do some things that will lessen that. But I think if we can use that as our guide, that helps us. What I think what you'll have from us is, you know, we won't, if we can find other ways to get it lower, we will, without too much pain. But I think what that does is, because we also have to be honest, you know, we're not done with S2. Previous years, as Tina said, we're gonna have less in fund balance. We're gonna have we're not losing as much aid moving forward, but we're still gonna be losing aid. So, you know, if we can try to, I don't think minimize is the right word, but if we can try to take the lesser of the evils in terms of cuts this year, I hate to say it, but there might be more the following year. We need room to be able to maneuver.
And the
So
fact that we're not going to referendum, I think is a plus. because I don't think-
Yeah, why don't
to just say, there is a lot of capital projects that have to happen in this district. Referendum's not far away from us.
Right.
And actually, it can be good because as debt service comes off.
Right, you want to.
Those are the times where you do want to maybe go out for referendum, because what it'll do is it'll keep your debt service flat.
Right.
You know, so yes, it seems nice that debt service will come off, but debt service is one of those things that are just kind of embedded in that you don't even really know. You don't even really feel it necessarily, because it's just a flat constant. That's, you know, that's tied up with the bonds, you know, that you do, right? So it's a way to fund things without, like, how many times when we say, look, we could fund all this, and the impact to the taxpayer is, you know, when we did the referendum 9 years ago, we had debt service coming off. So when we did the referendum, it didn't have a significant impact on the taxpayer. So to do a referendum is a good time. And as Tina, you know, as you look in that capital project, we have turf that's going to have, to be redone. We've talked about the lighting on the fields. We've talked about a lot of different things. And, you know, I know that everybody wants us to focus on in the classroom, and that's where the focus is. But, you know, if your roofs leak all the time, it makes it tough. So buildings have to be, and the facilities have to be
Maintain.
operated.
created as well. Ms. McGovern, do you have a
I was just
comment?
gonna say, I'm with Mrs. Parlamas, you know, that there's definite years that you look at it and it's kind of a no brainer that you have to make some difficult decisions. And I also think keeping in mind what Ms. Truba said about if you don't use your money, you're not going to get the grants. And I think we've gotten to a point where we're doing a really good job of grant writing. We have not always been at that point in this district. And it could have been time or whatever, but I think we're at a point where we've been getting more grants than we have ever. And to be able to keep being in a position of possibly receiving them is, I think, more important than cutting, another $500,000, like, or whatever, whatever it would be. I think you have to be in a point where hopefully the answers are, okay, yeah, you are strapped and here's some cash. Or
Does
grant.
that give you a little bit more direction, Ms. Truba?
Oh, is that-
Everybody,
is that
we're
the
only
sense
two of
the board?
us.
We heard from two people.
Okay, are you looking for
Well, I would like a consensus that,
a vote?
using the waivers and the caps is a direction, at least at this point, we're comfortable with. Perhaps with the understanding that if we can do it for less than that, then great. But,
So number one allows us more flexibility,
well,
hopefully.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
$600,000 less than only taking $500,000 away.
Ms. Hayes,
I semi am jesting, but I'm semi not. I think we should vote on this building again, but in light of not doing that, I would vote for number one as well.
Is that a comfort of the board at this point? I mean, it's
is
not,
there anyone who would be against that, using the healthcare waiver for?
No, I would be for one as well.
You're for one as well, Mr. McCarthy? Your thoughts?
I'm very conflicted, to be honest with you. I don't know how I feel about the fact. Thinking out loud here, which could be, suicide, but I don't know how I feel about the fact that we have a reduction in enrollment in our district, right? So that should mean that we need less staff, right? Like if I'm thinking through this, playing devil's advocate, that should mean that we need less
yeah, I
staff.
mean, part of this reality is that we're overstaffed in some areas. There's no doubt about that.
And so I'm struggling to rationalize why I'm struggling to rationalize why we need to increase to such a high degree with a lower enrollment at a point, right? And then at the other point, when I hear the amount of capital projects that are required, and I see all these items, I don't struggle with that so much, but I'm also very frustrated at the fact that, you're telling me that we need to find $1 million. And we would, and that's, you're using an $80,000 multiplier. So that means that we would need to find 5 less jobs, roughly 4 less jobs. We would need to cut off 4 less jobs roughly if we didn't have this money removed from our budget due to the S2 funding formula that I've been saying forever that, so that's something that very much frustrates me is the state is cutting our funding and they're forcing all of us to now go to our taxpayers and say, we need to increase your budget more and you all need to pay more. We need to make that decision. Whereas they could be not taking away our funding at the same level. So if I had to choose one, I would say that I'm not going to be the one that's going to stand in the way of scenario one, but I do have my reservations. If that is not clear, stand.
Agreed. This is Beal. Your thoughts?
I'm indifferent.
Would you be
I'm
amenable?
not opposed to it.
You're not opposed to number one, Ms. Talarico?
I feel the same. I'm not opposed to it, but
I know, the
Increase.
enthusiasm is. Yeah, who could be
Yeah, there's
enthusiastic about
good
that?
answer to this.
Right.
It's like cut staff, increase the taxes for the taxpayers that already have been taxed to, the high heavens. So
Mhm.
this is hard. It's really hard. And I think everybody around the table feels the same.
Yep.
No one
Yes.
wants to do either, but we have
Mrs.
to.
Beal?
I would just ask if wherever the luxuries and the cushion, as you mentioned, were overstaffed. Not that I would ever want to affect anyone's livelihood. But if there are some luxuries and cushions, whether it's from past practice and previous people, let's try to look at that also and get rid of some of the cushion.
Yep.
And luxuries.
Yeah,
Ms. Tortorella?
I agree with Mr. McCarthy. And I think that this has come up in prior years, but you know, when you look at it, if it's a business and your revenue is down in the business, you have less employees. And again, to Ms. Talarico's point, certainly there's no easy decision here, but I would, before I commit fully to number one, I'd like to see staff numbers in relation, you know, we've lost 800 students. Has our number of employees stayed flat, has gone up,
Well, like I said earlier, our reductions in employees, and we have made reductions in employees, but the reduction in employees have not been at the same rate as the students.
and losing 800 students.
Correct, yes.
Even
And
with retirements?
I'm sorry,
Even with retirements?
yes. And because not every one of those people can be a reduction, you do have to, you know, some of them you absolutely have to replace, right? So we've reduced where we can, and quite frankly, in the last 3 years, with COVID and everything going on with COVID, you know, making larger scale reductions, and part of that was helped because we got the grant money. But making those larger scale reductions during that time was something we worked hard not to do unless we could do it through attrition. You know, we didn't really cut a lot of people during that time. We did cut positions, but we didn't cut a lot of people. And, you know, but we're just to a point now where we can't do it. We can't get to where we need to get to now purely through attrition.
Mr. Clayton, did I call on you?
Yeah, you did.
Gave your opinion. I think you captured it, Ms. Talarico. It's not palatable for anyone around the table, but at least,
Please happen.
Ms. Truba, you have some direction to go in.
We're not opposed to number one.
Yes. That's a negative.
If we have to do it.
It helps us because
You know, but
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do agree with Natalie. I want to see staff numbers I want to see the trend chart. I would like if the board would maybe
Yeah.
agree with me so that I'm not just selling.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would like to see that trend chart that we saw for students. I would also like to see that for staff. to see
One of the things that we just always have to keep in mind is as staffing has, or excuse me, as student population has decreased, the landscape of education, the nature of what we do has also changed over that time. Meaning we have by a percentage more special education students than we had 10 and 15 years ago. By a percentage, we have more ELL students that we had 10 and 15 years ago. So in years, you know, so you might overall have one of the challenges we faced is even though our population is going down, the needs of our student population has increased and has forced us to provide staffing in areas, you know, that 15 years ago, we wouldn't have necessarily had to provide. So just keep that in mind as we look at some of those numbers, that's part of why that is, because, you know, when, you know, the more special education students that come to us, then that requires us to hire more special education teachers, even though the overall population is going down. Hiring ELL aides, more special education aides. When I got here 9 years ago, we had about 35 to 40 aides. We have close to 100 aides today in special education. I mean, so when you look at, you know, these are some of the things we've cut where we can, and other times, some of it's within our control and some of it has not been within our control. But that being said, no, let me take that back. I won't say it hasn't been within, some of it was not within our control. Others, I think we did solve problems by throwing people at problems. I think part of what Ms. Weldon and others have talked about is over the last so many years, a change in philosophy, a change in look. If you remember a couple of years ago, we were talking about overhauling our INRS process. And we sat here and said, wait a minute, we got to wait, you know, 4 months or 2 months, 3 months before we know if something's working. Yes, that's what we have to do, because prior to that, it would often be, we're going to, you know, it would take 7 hours and we classify the kid without any real data to know. So some of the pain now is the product of some of that that we've been in the process of fixing, but it's a process, you know, that can't happen overnight. But, you know, and perhaps should have happened quicker over the last couple of years, but for all of the grant funding and the COVID and everything like that we talked about, you know, we really tried to keep it to attrition and not take people as much as positions. So.
Mrs. Beal.
I just want to make sure it means all staff, not just teachers, some of the luxury positions that we have,
Well, when we look at this, we always look at every job category.
and part-time individuals.
Yeah, part-time,
Administrative,
administration,
Everything, not just.
secretary,
teachers.
support staff. Yep.
We'll have that by the next meeting.
Yeah.
The
Well,
staffing.
yeah, we could do staff.
We could definitely do
But we might not know. We might not know our numbers. Yeah, we're not gonna know. all
I just
the-
want to say is that the chart that
Yeah.
we saw today, with the number of students that declines from 2012 to present. Can we see that same number with a trend
Yeah.
line for staff?
Sure.
Underneath it by the next meeting, is that possible?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that the global?
Yeah, is it too much to ask to see teachers and then staff?
That's how, we have job categories.
Okay.
I just don't know how far back it goes. Like,
Okay.
if you notice, I was able to do the student,
Yeah.
student population 10 years. I don't know if I have all that data, so I
Alright,
can talk,
Yeah,
talk to the HR, area and
But
make
when you
sure.
do that, keeping in mind what Jim just said, so if our special ed and ELL
Yeah, I
population
will
has
absolutely break it
risen,
if I could see that.
if you could see
Yes.
that.
I don't know, I'm not sure that we can break it out that
I'll
way,
look
but if we
as
can,
much data as
sure.
I can.
All right, thank you.
Jim,
Yes,
you're also, when you're saying education looks different, you mean things also like SEL interventions. None of that existed before, right?
Yeah.
So that's all growth.
Right, I mean, you know, right, we've made decisions to add, you know, ed tech specialists
Yeah.
when we didn't have them before, you know, so a lot of positions we repurposed to address the changing landscape
Right.
because the needs have changed. So, you know, it you know, yeah, I mean, and those are some of the things we look at. You know, at the end of the day, right, you have classroom teachers and then, you know, I mean, it depends, it also depends on who you speak to as to what's a luxury and what's not, right? Like you could talk to some people and say an ed tech specialist might be a luxury. You could talk to somebody else and an ed tech specialist is essential based on the technology, the money we spend on technology. Without those people to help our people utilize that technology, the technology in itself is a waste of money, right? If we're not utilizing it to its fullest potential. So we have to, those are all the different things we weigh when we look at these things.
And sorry, last question.
Yeah.
Class size, you said earlier, we're still lower.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna, especially at the elementary
Could we
level.
see some data on that? It doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but like kind of where we were, where we are, and then where the state is.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you right now, we're probably lower. We're lower than we were probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. I mean, for example.
We're on par with Avon, like
Wait,
little.
yeah,
I know.
Wants that, what I just asked.
Yeah, I mean, Wayside, for example, I remember about 8 years ago, Wayside was very close to
25.
25 per. You know, they're now closer to around 20. You know, we made a conscious decision over at Dow Avenue the last so many years to keep them, even with the reduction in 3 staff members that we made last year, or 3 positions, I should say, last year, those class sizes are still 16, 17. I mean, they're still very low. When you look at most places around the state, you know, it's not crazy that you're seeing 23, 24, 25 as a norm in elementary classrooms. Not even just the state, Monmouth County. I mean, it's pretty typical. And I'm not saying that we do that one year, right? But you know, it's getting harder and harder to maintain 16 in an elementary classroom.
Is everyone okay with that if we ask Tina to pull?
Yeah.
Class size?
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, we have that.
tradition.
okay.
Dare I say, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Just
I
keep
was
to
just-
that.
I am, no, we're not gonna do that. No, but dare I say that I think one other thing that's gonna have to possibly be looked at, 2 things that are gonna have to possibly be looked at, and I've spoken to Jim about one of them, which is that I think we should look at our special ed programs and what we can, and I think Mrs. Hanson has looked at this or is continuing to, maybe take in some tuition students for like
Yeah,
market
we're-
that. That's one of the things I think. But I also think, and dare I say this, because I'm sure everybody will freak, but I think that we also possibly, if we're gonna get to a staff member situation and class sizes, is look at grade level buildings. And I know people never want to look at it, and I know everybody loves their neighborhood
We
buildings.
talk about that when we talk
But I
about
think-
school and.
Yeah, like once,
Yeah,
once.
there's a lot of challenges with that though, too. And
I know, I don't think it's worth,
to address your
know.
first point, just more so not as looking at tuition. One of the things that Ms. Hanson has done a very deep dive into is our out of district placements. And she feels confident over the next couple of years, we're going to be able to bring more students back into the district, which would save us, a pretty good amount in tuition dollars. She even thinks that we could do some nice work with that next year. However, we are reluctant to really budget for a significant decrease in that
Right.
because we know every year that
Somebody else
we see, right, as soon as we count on something, somebody's moving in or something happens.
Yeah.
So we want to keep that budgeting relatively flat, even though we may see a reduction in out of district tuition or out of district placements. But I think we would like to see a trend of 2 or 3 years of that lowered before we would really lower that line
in the
item.
budget, yeah.
Because if not, we could wind up in very serious trouble.
But
if we-
also you bring them back, you might also need more staff as in.
Yeah, but
like-
typically, right, typically.
I mean, it's less,
It
but
still
yeah.
works out in our favor, but, before we would want to budget for that, we would want to see a few years come in.
How does the board feel about if I adjust transportation routes? And maybe stop a lot of this courtesy busing?
Yeah, I think it's something we have to look at.
It saves us money.
Any
And
thoughts on it?
Go for it.
That's gonna take me probably till March to do, because we gotta wait to do the rollover in the system. But that is something a lot of districts now are saying, they're not doing the courtesy busing, they're gonna go up to 2 miles, anybody less than that, unless it's a dangerous route,
Right.
the kids walk to school. Some of them are saying seniors don't get busing, because 90% of them wind up, you put them on a bus and 90% of them are driving to school.
Right.
I think you need to know the savings.
So
Yeah.
I'm
That's a number.
but I want to let you, well, no, I'll try to bring that to you sometime in March, because I know when you adjust routes, it is a little,
Yes, but.
but
Did, to that point, may I ask?
Yes,
When you did the survey at the beginning of the year, did it stay pretty close to what people told you what they were gonna do?
what do you mean?
So like you did the survey, like, are you, I'm gonna take the bus or I'm not gonna take the bus. And we always said that, I might say, okay, I'm taking the bus or I'm not taking the bus, but then of course,
Right now-
if I came back, you would have to bus me.
Some people adjusted,
Right.
but like, for example, Maria Mosca now is spending more time. I said to her, look, I really need you to understand the utilization on buses. And she went to, for example, she was just focusing on Wanamassa. We send 5 buses there now. She said that could definitely go down to 4. She said she'd go into a bus and there'd only be 6 kids on it.
Mhm.
Everybody walks. Wanamass.
So that's what I'm saying. So I'm sending 5 buses there. I'm not, first of all, I'm not having any luck getting drivers right now. It's very difficult. So I'm very concerned even about having summer school buses. Because I only have a handful of people that signed up for summer school routes.
Mhm.
But I think that could be somewhat of a savings. I mean, remember, we're replenishing buses every 15 years, so I have a rotation of that. If I could eliminate a bus or 2, that helps us in the future. So I'm gonna propose in March, but I'd like the board to take a look at this before we have conversations with anybody. Yeah,
No, please do, because if we're talking about kind of positions and or people, I don't think anything is a sacred cow, including
Right.
this.
okay.
great. Agree, Mr. Clayton.
Mhm.
Agree. All right, thank you, Ms. Truba, for that less than.
Yeah, I know,
Less
deflating
than good.
conversation, I know.
We'll move to instruction, education, and student activities. Mrs. Veal.
9.1 through 9, move to approve 9.1 through 9.3, 9.4 through 9.8 are discussion.
Second. Oh,
I'm sorry,
Natalie.
one second now.
Ms. Tortorella, or was it Amy?
No,
Doesn't matter. Any questions on 9.1 to 3? So I'll take the vote.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Higgins,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern.
yes.
Ms. Perlamus.
Yes.
Ms. Salarico.
Yes.
Ms. Tortorella.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
So for our discussion.
Yeah,
items,
I think 4 and 5 are pretty self-explanatory. Oh, and the much anticipated 9.6.
Ellen,
So it's really pretty straightforward. The only thing that was really in question was two real questions. One, is the staff come in on the Friday before Labor Day, which is September 1st. We decided not to go in that direction. So staff, we're proposing will come in on the Tuesday and Wednesday after Labor Day. Students would start Thursday after Labor Day. Rosh Hashanah is over a weekend this year, so no days off for Rosh Hashanah. However, Passover is not at the same time. Usually coincides with the Easter holiday, and that's when we typically take our spring break. They don't run together. So what we are proposing doing this year is taking our spring break up against Good Friday and the week after Easter, because everybody knows that waiting that long is way too long to wait for an Easter break. If you remember last year's March and April discipline numbers, and then address the first 2 days of Passover several weeks later in April. This has been gone through with the administrative group, the association, PTA presidents. So now just bringing it to the board. We do not have this in public content because it will be all over Facebook by 10 o'clock tonight, if it hasn't already been. And it still could change a little bit, probably not, but it still could change. So at the next meeting, of course, it'll be available to the whole world. But generally speaking, is there any concerns with the calendar or anything?
Ms. McGovern?
My only concern, and I think we adjusted a couple years ago, was having graduation on a Friday night. I think
We
we
had
did
a
it.
graduation a few years ago on a
That's what I
Friday.
thought. I just wanted to
We
make sure.
didn't get
One person. Okay.
person. I mean, we go at,
We're done by
we're done pretty early.
sundown. Okay.
So, we didn't have one person, to my knowledge, have an
That was
issue.
my only.
That's pretty cool.
Well, if it snows a lot, you'll be in the next year or the next week, so you don't have to worry about it.
I'm okay getting out early. I'm just.
Mr. McCarthy, you have a question?
No, ma'am,
Comment?
no.
Any comments on the calendar then? We will vote on it at our
Yeah, next meeting.
regular meeting.
I had a question on 9.5
Mhm.
on the trips, but I don't want to speak out of turn.
Which trip?
Um,
Fourth grade or the 8.9?
the Trenton one, do we use our buses or is this the one that we have to use charter buses?
For the trip to Trenton?
We're doing this one. We're doing that one. Yeah, we're doing, I think we stopped using the charters a couple of years ago.
They're our buses, right?
Yeah.
It says charter.
Does it?
No, I think we're taking this back, I think.
In admin content, it
three.
did say charter.
Yeah, it had like
We're
it
taking this back.
was like a $1,700 bus or something
yeah,
like that, right? So you're saying you think it's gonna be us now?
I thought this one we were taking back and the one for the gifted and talented, that was going out because it's more of a.
Well, these do say charters. We'll
Yeah,
we'll confirm that.
I thought we were doing.
We'll
this.
confirm that.
I don't know what you mean by taking back.
Meaning.
No,
meaning
they
that-
went out and they went to a charter. I heard about this. I asked Maria, could we do it? And I thought we.
Oh, okay.
So-
Okay, then
It's on as a charter, so
Okay,
we will
let me find
double
it.
check it, yeah.
applied to the State House grant for these fourth grade trips. Cause you can get like $600 to $750 for school. All right, I'll send you the info if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, 9.7, instructional council update. I will recap that quickly. Our meeting was held on January 11. There were questions about the high school grading policy. Is there consideration of reassessing the 65% versus 35% formative summative weighting system? And the response was yes. Ms. Weldon said that adjustments can be made to the category weights after this school year. And the discussions could happen in department and school level meetings. Any plans for Genesis training or refreshers for parents and students? No plans at this time. At the district level for additional parent-student Genesis training, there are some videos and programs available. If additional training is needed, it can be developed at that particular school, but it's important to know the needs first. Multiple classes in one block, which can be a complicated issue, as we were talking about balancing the needs of students, ensuring that teachers have a full schedule and running specific Spartan School articulated programs. Discussions will take place between Ms. Weldon, Ms. Kasuba, and Mr. Di Pasquale to review the entire scheduling process and specific double class schedules. From the intermediate school, students being pulled out of class time, already having limited time. The therapists have limited time. Student therapy is part of their IEP. It's difficult for the therapist to make up these sessions. Teachers required to have meetings during their prep times or after school hours. Can the supervisor hold meetings during therapist off times or after school? And the response, therapists are only pulled when absolutely necessary, though it may seem more frequent. There have only been 2 meetings with the therapist so far. A question on instructional assistance in light of an article on NJ.com regarding districts receiving funds to make up for reduced state aid. Will the district consider hiring part-time instructional assistants for kindergarten? Unfortunately, no, was the response. The stabilization aid funding previously available was for one-time use purposes only, not for continued salaries. Preschool, how does the new preschool program prepare our students for an easy transition to kindergarten? Response, we're hopeful that 2 years of pre-K will make our students more prepared for kindergarten than previously, when they may have been coming to kindergarten with no prior school experience. Let's see, the other question was about substitutes being difficult to find. Many times our special needs preschool classrooms are left without a classroom teacher, and classroom assistants are left alone to manage the students. While our instructional assistants are capable, hardworking, knowledgeable, and do a phenomenal job, these are the neediest students in the district, and this is an unsafe, unfair practice. And the response was for the school liaison committee to bring this up and to discuss staffing at that time. No concerns from Ocean Township Elementary. Wanamassa asked to tweak the enrichment program schedule to make things more productive and less of an interruption to the students' day. And also concerns about how students are chosen to participate in that program, plus the fact that students are being pulled out for intervention, speech, OT, ELL, etc. And the response, administration understands the disruption issues. However, it's a priority and requirement of the district to provide the necessary interventions and opportunities to all students whenever they can. Principals are currently looking at both overall building schedules and individual student schedules to determine if tweaks can be made to minimize classroom disruptions. And our next meeting will be March 15th. Yes.
Did you say that supervisors scheduled meetings with therapists when the therapists had sessions? That occurred 2 times, is that what you?
The supervisors, wait, you're talking about for OT and. All right, hold on.
So if my child had a therapy session, the therapist was pulled to go meet with a supervisor? Is
Our
that what you
therapists who
said?
already have limited time with our students due to shorting are regularly pulled during student session times to have meetings with their supervisors. So the therapists are being pulled to have meetings with their supervisors.
Instead of meeting with the students?
There were two
Student
times
therapy is part of the,
over the
right,
course of
it
the
says,
year
yes.
where there was a general meeting of related services folks that happened during the school day. It doesn't, we don't know to what degree, some people may have had to have been rearranged. But there were, the implication was that this was happening all the time. And the reality was that it's happened twice over the course of the entire school year. And if anyone, of course, missed the session due to the result of it, it would have been.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
What type of therapy are you talking about? What type of therapist? Is it behavioral? Is it?
Speech.
It just says, yeah. Any other questions about instructional? Wellness, Ms. Talarico?
It's myself.
That was.
I'm
me.
sorry.
Yeah.
Ms. McGovern.
I do want to start just by shouting out our school counselors. It is National School Counselor Week. So I do want to start by shouting them out and letting them know that we appreciate them. There's many of them doing many good things. As we learned in instructional, Wellness Committee. So I'm just gonna go through quickly. It was the Great Kindness Challenge the last couple of weeks. Along with SEL Day, all of our counselors have been doing a lot of awesome things at the schools. There's been yoga going on, there's been mindfulness moments, all sorts of fun stuff, as well as there was a Sam at OTES had gotten with a veterans group for our students to write some veterans cards. So thank you cards and stuff like that. One for Valentine's, yeah. And once she found out about it, she asked our other schools. So all of the schools did that. They dropped them off with Sam. Somebody picked them up. They've been mailed. So that was another great thing. Every school spoke to, I wrote this down somewhere, spoke to the fact that Susanna, excuse me, she's our SAC counselor that's helping, right? She's SAC that's helping at all three schools.
Elementary social work.
Yeah, an elementary social worker, how much they love her. In every one of their reports, they mentioned it. She was on the call for us for a little bit. So I just wanted to let you all know that is something, you know, that was in our budget that we put in that everybody is loving, and really she's helping out a lot with the extra things going on. Tina, our SEL coach, she's been doing a lot of parent academies and stuff on her own that she's bringing into the district, which has been great. There's been a lot of talk from other districts to even Dr. Spankowitz, as well as herself, Tina and Allison Connolly, that people are hearing, oh, you're the district with the SEL coach and you're the district with the equity coach. That other districts are in a lot of ways asking what the program's about and how we're doing it, and are loving it. So that's great. The lifelines that we spoke about, there was a question from the board. Dr. Spankowitz thought I asked it. It was not me. So I feel like it was you, Grace Ann, but I'm not 100% sure. But the lifelines curriculum is being taught to all of our staff. However, the curriculum is only going to be from 5 to 12. So all of our staff is learning about it, but it's only actually being taught in grades 5 to 12. So that is one board question that was asked. And that's the trainings are all happening now. They believe that it'll go into effect in January. The September, September. The post-prom things are happening. You know, the speakers are coming in to talk to the kids. OTPD is involved. So there's a lot of that going on. The Great Kindness things. And then Ms. Connolly's been working a lot with the Central Jersey Consortium that we've spoken about before. She's got students doing that as well. I do want to mention that the Anti-Defamation League program is going to happen for the staff on February 17th. So that is another thing going on. So I think that's,
Be a student program coming up after that. And
correct.
I don't know if you've seen, we posted, and I think it's going out. There's a.
Oh, yes, I meant to mention.
There's a Nikki Francis doing a program on substance and for parents.
Yeah.
It's coming up in March, so I think that just went out.
Yeah, just went out today.
Yeah.
Yesterday or today went
Yeah,
to our
that's
spouse. So that's another thing that's going, that's going on.
Is that the same lady who did the social
media.
media one?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
So it's about drug trends. And they've done a peer leader program that's also had a good response. That was the other thing I meant to mention. So everybody loved the Relax Club that's going on, all of their lunches that are going on, you know, they're meeting with students. So it was a very positive meeting.
A lot of love.
Thank you very much. Our next meeting is, they did mention, I think Anthony put it on the minute, April.
No, it's going to probably go into, but too many people had conflicts. So
There's a lot of, he had a date, but there's a lot of conflicts because of testing.
there's testing, yeah. So it's probably going to be in early May.
Yeah.
Well, just plus though, we got a little more advance notice than 2 days. That's why I couldn't attend.
Yeah.
We just need,
Yeah.
at least a week.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hayes?
Were these committee minutes, are they going to be posted for our regular meeting? Like there were the last couple months, the actual minutes, like in a PDF?
Well, we talked about that, right? And I think we said we were.
I thought we
not
had
gonna go
discussed
back.
that at a previous meeting, that we would just give the updates as we do, rather than give everybody the minutes. What's
I thought the
board's
opposite.
thought on that?
I thought
We voted
Posted.
on it, is what
I
you're
don't
saying?
think we voted on it. I thought we just discussed it.
No, I don't know if the board discussed it. I think
What
we
was
talked
the
about it.
request be rephrased?
I'm sorry, Mr. McCarthy, you said what?
I missed what the request was.
We've had minutes of these meetings, like the wellness and the instructional, and if PR or if another committee had a meeting. The minutes have been in our agendas. Like a document, a
So I
PDF.
think it,
So why it
Yes,
stopped?
Ms. McGovern?
I mean, we have the minutes have gone to Grace Ann, myself and Jim. I believe that, and I don't, because I went back and forth with this asking, because I couldn't remember what the answer was. But that the minutes, that since we're giving the report, that the minutes went to the people that participated. When it's a district committee, when it's a board committee, the minutes go to everybody, but.
Yeah, we never used to do that. It would used to just be a report out, and then I think we got into, just including the minutes, but. I mean, these are district committees. Typically, district committee, minutes would not necessarily go to the board. It would just be a report out from the board members. The committee minutes typically go out to, like, for example, IC goes out to the entire staff. The wellness goes out to the committee itself.
So does
So,
instructional.
instructional goes out to the entire staff.
That's
Entire
right,
staff.
that's right, it does.
So as we have a lot of other district committees that, the minutes don't go. We just wanted to try to be consistent with district committees that have board liaisons that the board reports out on. Obviously, if the board committee meets separate from the board, like the finance or whatever, that obviously those minutes, since it's a board committee, would go to the full board. That was the thought, but.
Which we actually don't even do that all the time, like the board minutes. Even the board committee, like when we met
For construction.
for construction, we didn't put the minutes on there, we just gave a report of what was said.
When the district technology committee meets, we wouldn't include those. Mr. Weinstein last year would just give. We just want to be consistent between.
Safety, we never put
We're
out,
do
yeah.
For some district committees and not for others, so we're either going to do it for all of them, or we should just stick with, this.
I think the updates are good.
Can I just say one thing
Yes,
about,
Ms. Tallery.
because I honestly did miss it because I had another appointment, but. And you did a great job with the highlights, but there's like 5 pages of the updates, and. That would be a long, discussion to have or updates to read. I don't see the big deal if someone on the board wants to read, but it's all good stuff. I mean, I don't understand why we wouldn't be able or allowed to share that, because what the wellness committee does is great. And I'm sure your instructional, I don't know if that's something. Yeah, why not, right? Why wouldn't we share these? I don't know. My opinion is I would like them shared, but. And if somebody requests it, obviously it's not everybody, but I don't see a reason why we wouldn't. Or read the whole entire 5-page report, that's a long.
I don't think that's necessary.
Well, I think why I don't read exactly everything, because a lot of this report is the same of what's happening at all the school, like they're all doing kindness week, they're all doing. SEL day, like.
Right, the whole purpose is, once again, board members serve as liaisons on these committees. The idea is to kind of, not necessarily bring back a word for word discussion of what occurred, but to provide a synopsis.
A general overview.
Overview.
Right, 5 pages I don't know if everybody
That's-
wants to
that's
hear the
the
5
idea.
pages.
Well, 3 of the pages were the updates from the equity coach, right? And there's wonderful things that she's doing.
And she gave us a synopsis of them.
It's 3 pages typed, but okay.
Yes, Mrs. Beal.
I agree with the consistency, but if there is a board member who requests it, can they just get it?
Right. Also,
We typically operate.
I'm not sure. Is this a motion that we should make, that any board member I'm sorry?
I said, I think we just need to decide. It should be either the whole board gets it or nobody gets it.
I disagree. I think
Well,
for consistency,
okay.
I agree with what you're saying in terms
Yes.
of a board of the whole or a committee whole. But I also agree, if there's a board member who wants to see it, can we not spend the 15 minutes about every reason why they can't and just let them see it?
And whoever doesn't want to read it, doesn't.
And I won't, but if Grace Ann wants to, let her.
Grace Ann's on the committee. I'm not quite sure the direction that the board.
I move
Heard
that,
from you.
I move
ahead.
that if a board member would like to see committee minutes, please share them.
I
Second,
saw. Third.
Hold on, wait.
At this point, I guess
We
it
got
would be
90 minutes.
discussion and then a vote.
Who seconded?
Are you talking with, before, let's clarify that. Are
I
we
think the
talking
person-
about any committee?
They can just ask, they can say, I want the wellness committee minutes. Can I see the wellness committee minutes?
Or
I think
IT
we're, I
or?
think, whatever, like, yeah. I mean, with the
Any
exception,
committee.
I would say with the exception of safety, because safety is the one that we don't ever want to share out.
Right.
So I would say if somebody,
I agree.
sorry, Shawana, I'm just saying with the
No, I
exception of,
can.
yeah, so
With the
So
exception of
whichever
safety,
committee,
with the exception of safety.
with the exception of safety. Is that,
Got it.
okay?
Okay, so the motion was Ms. Beal, second was Ms. Hayes, so we're gonna take a roll call on it now. Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
yes,
Mr. McCarthy,
No.
Ms. McGovern,
yes.
Ms. Prolamus,
I'm gonna say no.
Ms. Telerico,
Yeah.
Ms. Tortorello,
No,
Ms. Gilman,
No.
3, 4, 5, motion passes.
Okay.
Great. So if a board member
Thanks, Rhonda.
requests
Thank you.
something of the committee liaison, we would send.
We
the
would,
With the
notes.
exception of safety.
Correct, with the
exception of
exception of safety.
okay. Personnel,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move items 10.1 through 10.9. Do I have a second?
second.
Ms. Truba?
Hold on.
Whoops.
So. Let's get this down. 7. Okay, Ms. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Clayton,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
yes,
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
Yes to all, but I'll abstain from 10.3.
okay, Ms. Palamas,
Yes.
Celerico,
Yes.
Tortorello,
yes.
Ms. Gilman,
Yes. All right, we move to policy. Ms. Tellerico.
Oh, do we want to talk about the job description real quick, though? I just want everybody to realize,
It should have been an exact.
but it's just a change, only because.
Yeah.
Are you
I
talking
put-
about the transportation?
Yeah, see, these, it's not, that's the transportation
Yeah.
job, so I have to update it, it has not been updated in probably 10 years. And there's a new requirement now that the transportation director needs a certification from STS, which is the Transportation Services of the state of New Jersey. So that's the only reason we're changing the job
Yeah,
description.
you told us that.
I didn't know if I
Yeah.
went through this or not, okay.
Yeah, I think last, yeah.
It was this on before, or I just, no, I think I said it
Did you
at
say
the.
it? Maybe you
in
said
the
it.
call.
Yeah.
Just gonna say it.
So this will be, we're gonna be posting soon for the position, so I wanted to make sure.
For
that
Ms.
the review
Mosca.
Of the change.
Thank you. Okay, the policies?
Thank you, President Gilman. We have 11.1, the presentation of policies, first reading, and it's just for attendance and student records. Is there any discussion? Comments?
Kids need to attend school.
That's right.
I have one.
I vote yes.
I have one question about attendance, it's just out of curiosity. If kids are out of school suspension, is that considered an absence? Okay. That's it.
So if you don't want to come to school, we get suspended for the week. Just kidding. Okay.
Is that good?
Yep.
Yep.
First
Okay.
reading. complete.
So that was our first reading. All right, we go to old business. Is there anyone with old business to discuss? If not, we will move to new business. Yes,
Just a quick, kind of FYI, Finance Committee, I'll be reaching out. We need to meet, to talk about use of facilities rates.
that's right.
So I'll touch base with everyone. Yeah, I just want to let everything else. We didn't change, we didn't have to. No, I asked you, we didn't.
Ms. McGovern, what was that?
I was, no, was I next for new business? I just wanted to mention that the we talk about trying prestigious things that are happening in this district and stuff, and I just want to mention that QB IQ thing only happens at 3 to 4 towns, 3 to 4 schools in the country. And we are one that was picked to do it. So we're asked to allow our facilities to do it. So I just wanted to mention that that's a really cool thing that we're going to be having here, and that's it.
Interesting.
Do they want to people the new lights?
All right.
Yep.
We'll go to the public comment.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Hayes.
This might even be old, or maybe it is new. Was there an update on getting the URLs changed or updated to more user-friendly and vanity names?
Yeah, IT is working on it, and my understanding is well, it's really the website, but our IT department has inquired with the website and they are working on that. Some have already been updated, and I think they're still in the process of doing it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? That we will move to the second of our public comment. Anyone from the public like to comment on any item at this time? Ms. Conway?
No, President Gilman, there are no commenters.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait.
Second?
McGovern,
And
Parlamas.
Mrs. Parlamas. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Buenas